I think that's part of what he wants, but I think he needs a little red hat that says, make Russia great again. It's kind of a messianic urge.
To the world of business.
What the budget would do is it would increase taxes overall by $2.6 trillion in new revenues. That is a massive tax increase.
This is Balance of Power with David Weston.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters in New York to our television and radio audiences worldwide, welcome to Balance of Power. We start today with the White House, where there's a big announcement already today, and it wasn't directly about Ukraine, but certainly indirectly it was, because it was about oil and the release from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve that should bring down the price of oil and the price of gas at the pump. To bring us up to speed, we turn now to our Washington correspondent, Joe Matthew. He is host of Sound On weekdays on Bloomberg Radio. Joe, thanks so much for being with us once again from the White House. So take us through this announcement for the president.
Well, he's supposed to speak at 1:30 p.m. Washington time here, David, to detail what we've already been reporting here at Bloomberg. We've seen a number of oil releases from this White House, from the Strategic Reserve, 50 million barrels back in November, another 30 million this month following the invasion of Ukraine. But, David, we've never seen anything quite like this. A rolling release, if you will, of 1 million barrels a month for the course of 6 months. Bloomberg reporting that would add up to about 180 million barrels if the U.S. follows that course as projected here. It is unclear exactly what this will mean for prices. AAA reporting right now the national average for a gallon of unleaded is $4.24. The American Petroleum Institute saying today in reaction to this it might provide some short-term relief, but is far from a long-term solution. Now, David, the president is going to also be announcing his invocation, if you will, authorization of the Defense Production Act, as Bloomberg already reported yesterday, to try to find and secure more minerals, more elements that are used to make large-scale batteries, thinking lithium, graphite, cobalt, nickel, and so forth. The president will make that announcement today, apparently in tandem, and there could be more where that comes from, David. The release from the White House says the president may also use the Defense Production Act to secure safer, cleaner energy. So stand by for more news.
That's clearly the big news. Just to go through the math here, it's 1 million barrels a day over 180 days, 6 months, and that's how you get to that 180 million barrels. But just one moment here, if you would, Joe, on the briefing yesterday, we heard from the White House about intelligence supposedly we have about President Putin's relationship with his military.
Yeah, that was something. I don't know if this White House is trying to toy with Vladimir Putin, maybe embarrass him, psych him out a little bit, but they actually went to the extent, according to the communications director, Kate Bedingfield, who briefed yesterday, of declassifying this information to suggest that military and economic advisors around Vladimir Putin are afraid to tell him the truth, misled him on some of the struggles that his military was facing in Ukraine. Now I'm sure he's making a few phone calls at the Kremlin to find out the truth, David.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you so much to Bloomberg's Joe Matthew. You can listen to Joe on Sound On at 5 p.m. Eastern Time every day of the week on Bloomberg Radio. We turn now to the view from the military side of this, and for that we welcome back retired Air Force Lieutenant General David Deptula. He's the Dean of the Mitchell Institute for Aerospace Studies. So, General, thank you so much for being back with us. First of all, let's pick up on what we were just talking about and this announcement from the White House about intelligence. It's not the first time that the White House has been really going into intelligence information about what's going on inside Moscow. You've been involved in more than your fair share of wars, I must say. You have a lot of senior experience in this. Is there a sort of a psychological operation going on, a psyops going on here?
Well, first, it's great to be back on your show, David. You always do great work, and it was super listening to Joe's reporting, and I think it's appropriate to give credit where credit's due. I think in this case, the administration is doing a great job releasing intelligence and not keeping it under wraps and using it to our benefit. And that is using truth as a means to educate the world as well as the Russian people that Putin has surrounded himself with sycophants. And that's led to some of the disasters that he's been facing. So good job on the White House and the U.S. intelligence community, and I dare say the rest of the NATO intelligence community, in making the proper moves with that information.
So, General, give us your best sense. Obviously, you're not privy to all the internal classified information, but what's your best sense of what the situation is on the ground in Ukraine right now, how the Russians are doing, how the Ukrainians are doing?
Well, first, any notion that the Russians are scaling back its offensive operations in Ukraine should be met with great skepticism. The fact of the matter is they're not withdrawing their forces, they're simply regrouping them. The other point that I think it's important to understand is that now that the conflict has exceeded a month, it's moved into a sustainment phase. And that's why it's all the more important to get the US and NATO to give Ukraine more powerful weaponry to take advantage of Putin's military disasters, particularly since Russia's now been stalled. And what that means specifically is to empower Ukraine with the weapons that can allow them to annihilate the Russian forces that have occupied or are attempting to occupy their country. For example, the Russians have fired over 1,300 missiles now against Ukraine. It's time for Ukraine to reply in kind against Russian airfields, missile launch facilities, and logistics supply facilities. So, what I'd recommend is that surface-to-surface missiles need to be added to the list of equipment that President Biden's planning to provide Ukraine, along with fighter aircraft, along with drones that can make a difference, not just 6-pound loitering munitions that are misleadingly being called drones, as well as the training to be able to employ all this kind of equipment.
That's fascinating. It sounds like a significant ramping up, actually putting Ukrainian forces to some extent on the offense against Russia instead of just the defense. On the defensive side, you know so much about air warfare. You've, I think, 3,000 hours as a fighter pilot, something like that. Have the surface-to-air missiles, not surface-to-surface, surface-to-air missiles, essentially neutralized the Russian Air Force? Because we don't hear much about air raids from Russia.
David, is a combination of both. So far, the Ukrainians have shot down about 130 Russian aircraft and about 145 Russian helicopters. Those shoot downs have been accomplished between air-to-air missiles shot by Ukrainian fighters like the MiG-29, as well as their surface-to-air missile systems like the S-300, as well as the Stingers that the United States has provided. So the United States and NATO are providing some good tools, but we need to, back on my point in talking about we've moved into a sustainment phase, is Ukrainians are using up those weapons against the Russians. Let me also, if I may, just caution something you said. It's important to remember that the Russians are the aggressors here. And with respect to weapons, there's no such thing as an offensive weapon or a defensive weapon. It's how you use that weapon. Since the Russians are the aggressors, everything the Ukrainians are doing is in defense of their country. So every weapon they use is for a defensive purpose. And I think that's very important to remember.
That is a great point. I'm really glad you made that point. That's why you're a warrior and I'm not. You really understand the way this works. It's a really important thing to keep in mind. One more point here, though, General. You, again, have experience in war. What happens when you have a negotiation going on? There seems to be negotiations. We don't know if they're going to go anywhere or not. At the same time, there's warfare going on. What are the risks? What are the issues that are raised when you're trying to do both at the same time?
Well, first, the Ukrainians should not let up for 1 second while negotiations are proceeding. The Russians are going to use negotiations to prolong the effort because they believe the time's on their side. This is why resupply of Ukraine is so important, to demonstrate that the longer this goes on, the more Russian forces are going to get killed. And it's important to achieve a definitive defeat of Russian forces in Ukraine, because that's not only going to rob Putin of the necessary force structure to launch subsequent invasions, which he clearly has planned, but it's also going to dial up internal resistance inside Russia from families who are having their sons and daughters die in combat. So the devastated mother factor can't be discounted in any country, even in Russia. And so the Ukrainians need to keep it up and ultimately force the Russians to come to a negotiated settlement.
One last question, General, if I may, and that is, in addition to what we're seeing from the military and to some extent in some negotiations, we also have seen a massive attempt at sort of economic warfare and the sanctions that have been levied by the U.S. and its allies against Russia. Are we seeing any effect on the military in Russia because of those sanctions?
The short answer is no. Sanctions take time to have an impact. And I believe that we need to keep the sanctions in effect, but with a long haul view to collapse Putin's economy. Now, Putin's a hard power realist, and we need to pull the levers tied to his ability to stay in power, and sanctions are one of those levers. In other words, it's what will ultimately make the Russian population question whether Putin's actions in Ukraine are worth their support.
It's always so very good to have you with us. That's retired Lieutenant General David Deptula. Coming up, Citi Global Chief Economist Nathan Sheets on the U.S. economic numbers out this morning. Are we seeing demand destruction? This is Balance of Power on Bloomberg Television and on radio. This is Balance of Power on Bloomberg Television and Radio. I'm David Weston. We always want to keep you up to date with news from all around the world, and for that, we turn to Mark Crumpton with First Word.
David, thank you. The U.S. will release roughly 1 million barrels of oil a day from its reserves for 6 months. The move underscores White House concern about rising gas prices and supply shortages following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The White House calls the move unprecedented and says it will provide an historic amount of supply to serve as a bridge until the end of the year when domestic production ramps up. We'll hear more about this later today when President Biden speaks from the White House. Meantime, OPEC and its allies are still refusing to engage with the energy crisis triggered by the war in Ukraine. At a meeting today, the OPEC Plus coalition, as expected, decided to stick to its schedule of gradual production increases. The cartel ratified the 232,000 barrel a day supply increase scheduled for May. That came before the U.S. decision to release oil from emergency stockpiles. NATO's Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg says Russia is not keeping its promise to scale back near the cities of Lviv and Chernihiv. Speaking at a news briefing in Brussels today, he said Moscow is trying to regroup in the eastern Donbas region while maintaining pressure on Lviv and other cities. Stoltenberg said NATO still stands with Ukraine.
We need to continue to supply weapons to Ukraine. NATO allies will continue to supply weapons to Ukraine as long as necessary. This is extremely important because Ukraine is fighting a war for freedom, for democracy, for our shared values.
Ukraine says negotiations with Russia on a ceasefire could resume virtually tomorrow. That would pick up on face-to-face discussions in Turkey this week. The Omicron variant of COVID-19 may be more severe in young children than previous waves of the virus. That's according to a new Hong Kong-based study, which found the strain linked to more hospitalizations, severe complications, and deaths, particularly in unvaccinated children. The researchers are urging health officials to consider vaccinations for kids under the age of 3. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on Bloomberg Quick Take, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in over 120 countries. I'm Mark Crumpton. This is Bloomberg. David?
Thank you so much to Mark. We got economic numbers out for the United States earlier today, and they showed that consumers spent more money, but when you adjust for inflation, the number actually went down rather than up. To explain what this might tell us about the state of the economy, welcome now Nathan Sheets. He's Citi Global Chief Economist. So, Dr. Sheets, thank you so much for being back with us. It's always great to have you. Is this an indication maybe the economy is weakening?
I think that we're seeing that the headwinds on the consumer sector are mounting. And part of that is the inflation story and rising energy prices. I think part of it may actually be a fiscal drag, so that the support from fiscal policy that has been so important for the consumer through the pandemic, it's phasing out and starting to even turn negative. And I think we're seeing some of that in these numbers. And kind of putting it together, consumer sentiment is starting to soften. Now, lest I sound too negative, the consumer also has a fair amount of momentum. And so the headwinds are becoming more intense, but the momentum is still there. And how it all plays out in coming quarters is an open issue.
Yeah, well, the fiscal drag is a really important point that we forget. Year over year, there's not nearly as much fiscal stimulus coming into the economy. And I guess that's what you mean by fiscal drag. But I guess one of the things I'm a little perplexed about is this good news or bad news? Because we want to get inflation down. Can we get inflation down without this sort of drag?
I think this is the question. Is that the Federal Reserve and economic policymakers, in thinking about the economy, they want to bring inflation down. In order to bring inflation down, the economy's got to slow some, but they don't want it to slow too much, because then they've got to face recession risk. And so they're trying to find kind of that Goldilocks, that soft landing, where there's some moderation, but not too much moderation. So some slowing, but contained slowing is, I think, what we're hoping for in the numbers.
Well, and Nathan, that takes us forward to tomorrow when we get the jobs numbers for the United States. And I guess I have a similar question. Can we get inflation under control if we do not have more unemployment?
We have a very tight labor market at the moment. And the thing that's extraordinary about it is it's already very tight. And the ongoing demand for labor, particularly in the services sector, is very significant. And we're starting to see those effects pass through into higher wages and more inflationary pressure. And we continue to hope that there's a chunk of people on the sidelines that are waiting for the pandemic to be in a better place, who have family obligations that may change as the pandemic improves, or people who have retired that decide they want to come back. But this labor market may mean higher wages still, more inflationary pressures. And that does pose a challenge to this soft landing scenario that I was describing.
Well, let's go back to those economic projections out of the Fed that we had a couple of weeks ago, because they projected that we're going to have more inflation, that we're going to have higher rates, and yet the unemployment rate would not go up at all. Is that realistic? Do you think there are enough people waiting on the sidelines that might happen?
Well, when Jay Powell was asked that question, it was a very challenging answer. And I think it is difficult to get economic slowing with kind of an immaculately flat unemployment rate. Maybe that's possible. Maybe we'll be able to find some pockets of labor that are not tapped yet. But I think it's going to be challenging. And the possibility that we might see a higher unemployment rate, which often builds on itself, and generates meaningful recessionary pressures, is a distinct possibility here.
Nathan, finally, you mentioned the possibility of recession. What do you put that possibility at?
I think that globally, it's around a third. The geopolitical situation, the energy situation is very severe. I think in the United States, we are insulated a notch. But Alan Greenspan once said that the United States cannot long remain an island of prosperity and stability in a world that's struggling. And when I think about kind of the global situation, coupled with the Federal Reserve potentially hiking very rapidly, maybe 1 in 4 over the next 18 months, it is significant, David.
It's always such a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you, Nathan. That's Nathan Sheets. He is Citi Global Chief Economist. Still to come in this program, we're going to talk with famed pollster Frank Luntz about how voters are reacting to the war in Ukraine and, for that matter, to continued inflation. This is Balance of Power on Bloomberg Television and Radio.
The jobs report last month beat estimates.
We have a very tight labor market. It is pretty clear.
Historic recovery in our labor market.
One of the best labor markets in a generation.
This Friday, Tom, John, Lisa, and Mike will bring you the data and analysis as the numbers cross the Bloomberg.
More people are coming into the labor force. It's going to decelerate the wage gains. Is that good?
As the Fed looks to contain inflation, it's really important that the jobs recovery continues.
The March Jobs Report, Friday on Bloomberg Television and Radio.
This is Balance of Power on Bloomberg Television and Radio. I'm David Weston. Today is the end of the quarter, and what a quarter it has been. To take us through just what a quarter it's been, we welcome now Abigail Doolittle. So, Abigail.
That really encapsulates it. What a quarter it's been. I mean, it's just been a rocky, wild ride. And if you remember, at the very beginning of the year, it was up and away for stocks until the following week it wasn't. So, volatility is really the key theme for this first quarter. But overall, stocks lower, but not as low as they could have been, because the S&P 500 on the quarter down 3.7%. But at one point, David, if you remember, the S&P 500 had been down more than 10%. The NASDAQ 100 down more than 15%. So we've seen this big recovery in March for sure.
Yeah, and then bonds.
Well, bonds, that's probably
worst quarter ever or something, right?
Well, that's probably the big,
actually, worse. That is, they lost the most value.
Well,
if you were short bonds, you were doing fine.
Yeah, if you were short bonds, you were doing fine. And now that you say that, I'm actually going to put in the Treasury commodity to see, because it's different if you look at it sometimes from yields. But yeah, the 2-year yield right now, the biggest spike up going back ever since records have been kept, 1976, and relative to 10-year notes, I'm actually just waiting for this to pull up in the Bloomberg. But yeah, that's been probably even the bigger story. I mean, if the declines had stuck for stocks, that would perhaps be equal, but this massive backup that we've had in yields and the selling of bonds has just been incredible.
But Abigail, I'm going to get personal here. It's a challenging quarter for you as well, because you always say it's all about the Fed. This quarter, certainly the Fed was a factor, but we also had Omicron, which really affected things, and then we had a war in Ukraine. So the markets had to contend with at least 3 different waves of challenges.
And that's probably a key driver of the volatility. Like, volatility represents uncertainty, confusion. Investors simply don't know. So there's all these different factors. But I would say it goes back to the Fed, that liquidity. I mean, prior to the pandemic, I think that the Fed's balance sheet was called $4 trillion. No small amount. But now, $9 trillion. And by the way, they are still buying ever so slightly. Everybody thinks that it's coming in, but that liquidity is still there. Relative to bonds, the actual 10-year note, the biggest decline going back to 2009. So not as dramatic in price relative to yields, but either way, lots and lots and lots of moves. And oil, how much was it up on the quarter? 41%. That's just incredible.
But President Biden tried to address that today.
Yes. Well, it'll be interesting to see what comes of that address, and it looks like there will be, based on that exclusive reporting, that release from the U.S. reserves.
So, a great summary of the quarter. Thank you so much to Abigail Doolittle. Coming up is President Biden's handling of the war in Ukraine helping him with his approval ratings. We're going to ask famed pollster Frank Luntz. This is Bloomberg. This is Balance of Power on Bloomberg Television and Radio. I'm David Weston. Keeping up to date with news from around the world, we're going to go now to Mark Crumpton with First Word.
David, thank you. Russia will stop gas suppliers to buyers from what it calls unfriendly states tomorrow, unless they comply with its demand that payments be made in rubles. In a televised address today, President Vladimir Putin said buyers will need to open ruble accounts in Russian banks if they want Russian gas. He says the ruble payments are an important step in strengthening Russia's financial situation. The United States is stepping up the pressure on Moscow over the war in Ukraine. The Biden administration announced new sanctions on Russia's economy today, targeting what it said was Russia's biggest chip maker and largest exporter of microelectronics. 21 entities were hit with penalties today. A previous round of restrictions was announced by President Biden last week. CIA Director William Burns has tested positive for COVID-19 and has mild symptoms. Burns, who was vaccinated and boosted, met with President Biden yesterday, but was wearing an N95 mask, was socially distanced, and was not considered a close contact to the president. The CIA says Burns will work from home and plans to return to the office after isolating for 5 days and testing negative for the virus. President Biden received his second booster shot yesterday. There's new research into an anti-parasitic drug that's gained some notoriety as an alternative treatment for COVID. Ivermectin has not been authorized as a COVID therapeutic. Scientists in Brazil allowed more than 1,300 patients who took either the drug or a placebo over 3 days. They found the medicine didn't help keep patients out of the hospital or lower the risk of death. That study was published in the New England Journal of Medicine. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on Bloomberg Quick Take, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in over 120 countries. I'm Mark Crumpton. This is Bloomberg. David?
Thank you so much, Mark. Well, President Biden has had a rather bumpy path in polls the last few months, starting with the escape from Afghanistan, which didn't go the way we would have wanted, and then inflation coming on board and actually Omicron coming back. Well, the question now is that changing because of his handling of Russia's inflicting of a war on Ukraine? Because he's getting a lot of high marks from various quarters for the way the president is handling that. For some answers, we turn now to Frank Luntz. He's a famed pollster and CEO of FIL Inc. So, Frank, thank you so much for being with us. Really appreciate it. Are his poll numbers coming back?
Slightly, and they certainly stopped the fall. You're correct that Afghanistan was the moment for him that things turned bad. The public was very resentful about how he left. They saw the visuals. And David, what this has taught me over the last few months and few years is how important the visual is in media. If you see a collapse, a crisis, that triggers greater public movement than anything that's written in the newspapers. And what they saw in Afghanistan was a failure. What they see in Ukraine right now is a tragedy. It's a disaster. And people do not blame the president for that. So, in fact, his fall over the last 3 or 4 months has stopped. The public still does not credit him for success with inflation. They still hold him responsible for what's happening at the border. But the war in Ukraine is helping him in his attributes, in his leadership traits. They're not great numbers, but they are good numbers. And it's the only thing that Biden is being rated positively on at this moment.
So, Frank, you're absolutely right. We're seeing the tragedy in Ukraine, particularly in places like Mariupol. We can't believe the death and destruction being wreaked there. At the same time, another thing we see typically on our evening news, for those of us who still watch some evening news, is the prices at the gas pump. You talked about the inflation issue. We had the president come out earlier today and say we're going to release, he's about to come back. I'm sorry. He's about to come out in about an hour, and we expect he's going to release a fair amount of oil from the strategic petroleum reserves. So if you compare inflation and the way he's handling with Ukraine, which is more important to the voter?
It's definitely inflation. It's food and fuel. And it's every single day. It's every voter. It doesn't matter whether you're from Massachusetts or Montana. Inflation affects everyone, and it's hour by hour. We have to eat. We have to turn on electricity. We have to use our cars or vehicles to get to work. And that's holding back the president from assuming any kind of credibility. Right now, the public believes that he didn't create, and I want to emphasize, the public believes he didn't create the problems in Ukraine, inflation, crime, immigration. They don't believe he created it, but they do believe that he's failed to solve it. And our expectations for him are higher based on what he said during the campaign, based on how he promised to govern. And quite frankly, he ran as Harry Truman, a centrist Democrat. He sought to govern as Franklin Roosevelt, very much a progressive. And when you look at the results, it feels more like Jimmy Carter.
Well, that's not a place that the president probably wants to be, I think it's fair to say. Frank, let me take a turn now to something that we saw about last Sunday at the Academy Awards when Will Smith went up and smacked Chris Rock on a stage in front of millions and millions of people, and the aftermath of that, people are still talking about it. Is that a one-off? Was that just specific to that particular instance and particularly to the entertainment industry, or does it tell us something broader about our society right now?
Well, this is part of the culture wars, and I wish they were not happening because they're divisive. People get mean about it. Will Smith has apologized to every individual with one exception. He hasn't said anything to young men that this is not how you behave, that if someone tells a joke you don't like or someone's offensive to you, that doesn't give you the right to hit them, doesn't give you the right to do a violent act. And my fear, David, and this is way outside the political realm, but it is certainly about American culture, is that young men who follow Will Smith, he won more awards than any other actor in the Kids' Choice Awards. He is respected by young people. He was revered by them. If he doesn't tell young men, do not do this, I'm afraid that you're going to see them act it out again and again. His own son tweeted, "This is how we do things." Well, no, it's not. And culture is essential to behavior. It's essential to who we are as a country. And this is just another example of a role model. And he is a role model, whether we like it or not. People do follow him, of a role model doing bad behavior and not taking responsibility for it. Again, it doesn't matter what he says to Chris Rock. It doesn't matter what he says to the Academy. What matters is young people seeing him and acting out exactly as he did.
And Chris Rock actually had his first public appearance in Boston and came out, and he had, I think, a 2-minute standing ovation, and he was rather emotional about it, but said that was not the time he really wanted to address it. He hasn't really addressed it fully. At the same time, these are not the only role models in our society. I wonder if there are some connections, or maybe this is really a strain to try to make a connection with some of our political leaders and the way they've conducted themselves. Maybe not physically hitting one another, but the way that they use words can sometimes be an assault as well.
Absolutely. Our previous president and how he talked about women was ridiculous and reprehensible. The current president, in the middle of a debate, telling his opponent to shut up. This is not how Americans used to behave. This is not part of who we were, but it is part of who we are, David. And I'm afraid for the future. Young people are getting all the wrong messages. There's a reason why they're acting out. There's a reason why there's an increase in violence in schools. That picture that you have up there of Will Smith acting that way, I'm afraid of what's going to happen in high schools across America. I teach in the inner city in Watts in California, and I'm going to be in front of my students on Sunday. I can't wait to hear what they have to say to me, but I got to tell you, if we don't learn apology, if we don't learn humility, then we've learned nothing as a society, and things are only going to get worse for us.
Okay, so Frank, finally, let me turn this around, if I can, in this sense. You know people so well. You do so many focus groups on so many subjects. Is there an opportunity for some leader actually to step forward and take a different tack and really stand up for decency, for basic manners, for treating people with respect, and maybe garner some support?
Absolutely. We got 2 people on the Republican side and 2 people on the Democratic side. Tim Scott, the senator from South Carolina, thinks and acts with his heart, not with his gut. Ben Sasse from Nebraska, the senator, has written books and has studied parenting, and that's more important to him than policy. On the Democratic side, Mitch Landrieu, there is no living politician who loves people more and gets them and interacts with them than the former mayor of New Orleans, who's now running Barack Obama's infrastructure campaign, and either Michael Bennet, the senator from Colorado, or Cory Booker, the senator from New Jersey. These are people who speak out of compassion rather than out of hate. Both parties have people like this. The question is, will they be destroyed by others who only seek to divide, who seek to criticize and condemn? Again, David, I'm nervous about our future.
Frank, despite your nervousness, it's really great to have you with us. That's Frank Luntz. He is the CEO and founder of FIL Inc. Coming up, we go to Lviv, Ukraine, for a report on the humanitarian crisis from the Emergency Communications Coordinator of Medicine Sans Frontières. This is Balance of Power on Bloomberg Television and Radio. This is Balance of Power on Bloomberg Television and Radio. I'm David Weston. We hear about it and we see it every single day, the humanitarian disaster in Ukraine, what is being done to so many innocent civilians every single day. But there are people in Ukraine who are fighting to try to protect these people, provide for them. We're going to go now to somebody who represents that group of people. She's Avril Benoit. She is Emergency Communications Director for the organization we call Doctors Without Borders. They have a French name, but I never took French, as I just said to her. Thank you so much for being with us. You're in, as I understand, Lviv. Give us a sense what's going on the ground in Lviv, Avril.
Yeah, Lviv is actually very safe if you ignore the air raid sirens, which sometimes happen 5 times a day, which of course we don't. We go into the basement. But this is a city UNESCO heritage site where it's considered relatively safe. At least, if you could say anywhere in Ukraine is safe. So a lot of displaced people, maybe 200,000 people from other parts of Ukraine, have ended up sheltering here. We're using it as a main supply base because one of the main things that medical doctors, hospitals, and nurses have told us around Ukraine, where they have a highly developed medical system, highly trained and skilled medical expertise, they have told us they lack certain things, certain supplies. So we bring it in through Poland for the most part, through Lviv, and then dispatch it out to various hotspots around the country. And the other thing that we've been able to do here, as well as in many parts of the country, is offer something that the Ukrainian physicians, as skilled as they are, just don't have, and that is we're trying to share our expertise in war wounded, in triage, in mass casualty responses and things like that.
So, Avril, as you know, I've discussed, you're in the field, I'm not. So I'm not sure how it works, but I'm inclined to ask, take us from the west where you are across to the east and the gradations of the level of problems that you're facing.
Sure. Well, you see the map of some of the places where we're working. It's not entirely complete because we're not necessarily always indicating where we're working, but you can see Lviv over there on the left by the Poland border. And then you have a certain number of areas around the borders, any number of countries where you have people who have fled. The United Nations Refugee Commission says that there are, just millions and millions, and they tabulate it every day. But in places like Poland, in Hungary, in Moldova, you have displaced people. In Ukraine itself, though, that's where you have the most. And as you move further into the interior to the capital of Kyiv and then onward into the east, those are the real hot zones. And coming down to the south, you have Mariupol. Mariupol being the city that is entirely encircled, perhaps even completely besieged. And there are very daring rescues that are happening to try to get people out and medical supplies in and other kinds of life-saving supplies into Mariupol, largely led by the International Committee of the Red Cross, which of course has that particular mandate to negotiate that sort of access. And then what we're doing is positioning our medical teams in the various places where people are likely to come out, because we can then perhaps facilitate the transfer of those patients to safer places like Lviv, where they can get higher levels of care in a relatively safe environment.
So, Avril, we're simulcasting on radio as well as television, so I'll just try to describe what we saw for our television audiences. For our radio audiences, what we saw was some operations for Médecins Sans Frontières over in the western part of the state, almost on the border with Moldova, going over toward Poland, obviously in Lviv. Then also I saw down in the south around Odessa, it looked like, and then operations in Kyiv as well. Talking about Mariupol, which seems to be just a terrible tragedy right now, can you get medical supplies into Mariupol at all at this point?
We cannot. We have tried a number of times, and I know that there's always a convoy on standby that is trying to make the attempt. So as I understand it, there is an attempt going on right now, as I say, with the ICRC in the lead, and we very much hope that they can have that access. One of the things that we encountered when we had supplies loaded on flatbed trucks trying to reach Mariupol is that the road was just littered with mines, with improvised explosive devices and things like that. And certainly you can move little cars zigzagging through the debris on the road and the various mines, but you cannot move trucks. And so for us, this was a massive and devastating missed opportunity to bring supplies in, and then at the same time bring people out on the other side.
Avril, most of us think about what you need to do over there is related to injuries from the war. At the same time, there were infectious disease issues in Ukraine before this happened, I've read about. What was the medical state in Ukraine, and to what extent has that been exacerbated by this war?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, because certainly, a lot of the attention right now is on war wounded and trauma. What we're seeing, though, is that as we have seen for many, many years, there is, with this elderly population, chronic disease, which now with the war is left unaddressed to some extent. While the Ukrainian hospitals are prioritizing the war wounded, the others who need to come in and deliver babies and children who need vaccinations and all the other care that people need, people with diabetes need their insulin. These are the areas which risk being neglected. The other thing we're seeing is that people who are older, have less income, maybe no car, have not been able to flee cities like Kyiv. And so they're at home alone. They don't have their medications, or they've run out. They don't have the energy or the mobility physically to be able to go and stand in line at a pharmacy that's run out of stock. So there are all these gaps that are beginning to emerge. And these are what you might call the knock-on effect. So you'll have those who are killed and injured by direct impact of the war. And then you're going to have those who become sick as an indirect impact of the war. And so that is certainly an area of focus for the medical humanitarian intervention we're doing.
Monumental task. Thank you so much for sharing with us. That's Avril Benoit. She is Emergency Communications Coordinator for Médecins Sans Frontières, and she is coming to us today from Lviv, Ukraine. Coming up, we're going to check in on reaction in the oil markets in anticipation of President Biden's expected announcement on the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. This is Balance of Power on Bloomberg Television and on radio. This is Balance of Power on Bloomberg Television and Radio. I'm David West. And a short time from now, President Biden is expected to make an announcement of a release of a very large amount of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, something like 1 million barrels a day over 6 months, to try to address the problem of the rising price of oil. To give us a report on this move and what it could mean for oil markets, we welcome now Kevin Crowley. He's Bloomberg News reporter from Houston. So, Kevin, thanks for being here. Is this a drop in the bucket? Will it make a difference?
It is making a difference in the short term. Prices have dropped 5% today already, and we're even seeing movement in the long-term oil futures curve. So it's definitely making a difference. This is the biggest SPR release in history, 3 times what they've ever done before, and it's part of a 3-pronged strategy here by the Biden administration to help bring down gasoline prices. Number 1, you have the SPR release. Number 2, you have increased penalties on oil producers who are not using leases. And number 3, doubling down on clean energy. Biden even used the phrase weaning the U.S. off oil production altogether in a statement today. So this is really an aggressive move to bring down gasoline prices.
So an aggressive move. Give us a sense of the timeline of those 3 elements. How long will it take with the Strategic Petroleum Reserve barrels to make it into the system, get refined, and turn up at the gas pump? How long before they can get people producing more back here in the United States? And how long before we get clean energy ramped up?
Well, it's a good question. Clearly, the SPR release is the shortest term aspect of the plan. The administration is calling for about 1 million barrels a day or so. Some analysts are skeptical as to whether that can actually be physically achieved. The SPR release was not really set up to deliver so much oil to the industry so quickly. The second prong attack to increase domestic oil producers, well, the domestic oil industry, especially here in Texas, say this is completely misguided. Increasing penalties, increasing fees on the industry is no way going to encourage more oil production. In fact, it will do the opposite. And the move to clean energy is obviously a very long-term plan that is questionable as to whether the country will even get there. I mean, weaning ourselves off of oil production is we're a very, very long way from that altogether. But these three measures certainly not going down too well here in Texas. Oil producers very, very unhappy with this. They really want a constructive dialogue with the Biden administration, they say, rather than one that penalizes them.
Yeah, in the meantime, everybody's watching those prices at the pump, and nobody's been enjoying it very much. Thank you so very much for being with us. That's Bloomberg's Kevin Crowley reporting on oil from Houston. Check out the Balance of Power newsletter. That is on the terminal, and it's also online. Coming up on Balance of Power, we'll continue on Bloomberg Radio. In our second hour, we're going to talk to former HP CEO Carly Fiorina about how you manage risk in a very risky environment, which is what we have now. And this is Balance of Power on Bloomberg Television and on radio.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio
Swanky hosts the Buckeyes of Ohio State. Hi, everybody.
Mistake over the heart of the plate. Wasn't the two-hole, but has transitioned into this leadoff slot for Ohio State.
And Lacatena catches the outside corner. 6 knocked in. And that ball lifted to second. And it's taken out there. To start at catcher, Johnson, Abernathy, Riley Smith left to right in the outfield. That ball is hammered to left center. That is crushed. And as she always does, Jenny Dalton Hill astutely talking about Hackenbracht in our open, and she goes yard to lead things off for the Buckeyes.
Well, and when we talk about home runs, she has just been on a hot streak, able to come away now with 8 of her last 9 home runs being hit in the last 11 games. So for her, she is seeing the ball big. Lacatena makes a huge mistake in that leadoff pitch, trying to get ahead early.
Lacatena touched up, and that will bring up Carver, who immediately...
He had been sitting in the 2, bump in the 5, but now Audie moved back down to that 5 slot in the lineup.
And ball's lifted to the left side. Stoddard will handle it in foul ground, but not before the ball. And that's a pretty pitch on the outside part of the plate. And that bunt is dropped down, nicely done, and play in the dirt, and they say it's safe. And that's what you do. And Riley Smith is, I think she's been better and better at that. Hanley, boy, the 0-2 pitch is a good one, and she is painting the corners early.
Now another good lefty out of Auburn, who's now playing at Ohio State.
Off the fist, Abernathy takes it back up the middle, and that's going to be a base hit. Just allow Smith to get a jump from second. And Abernathy from first with 2 outs in the first. Lifted to short left. And taken in out there, and that's it. No runs. Outscoring its opponents 24-6 in the first and second innings, and that one's going to fall for a base hit. Again, a nice job just fighting off a pitch and muscling into the outfield. Bunts through that. And that's what you don't want to do if you're a pinch runner, is to come in and fall down and get caught up. And you got a feel for her. Little tapper. Oh, that's the second time I've seen that this weekend. There was, I know you're saying what in the world, but watch. It hit something and went down.
He approached that ball. Lacatena reached for it. And then the English, maybe it hit something out there, but that was a crazy play.
There's a little bloop to short. They get the lead runner. And wow,
miscue by Tobias.
No,
I think that's exactly what it is, but it's also a midweek after a tough weekend, knowing that you got to go to LSU the next weekend.
That ball is hit really well and gone. I don't know that they could have turned the double play, but man, that happens after that mental error. Second homer of the game for the Buckeyes, and they lead.
Typically likes to hit gap-to-gap shots, but this one, a no-doubter, gets all of that one. Her second home run of the year, and gives Ohio State a 3-0 lead last year.
And that ball is lifted to center, and it'll be caught. But for Ohio State in the second.
Piece of that third game against Auburn is Kentucky was able to play error-free in a series finale, and they were on an 8-game stretch with an error in each one.
And Stoddard.
And that curveball tail away from a left-handed batter. Not a lot of strong left-handed pitchers in the nation, so it's a different look.
Grounder to first, and played nicely by Carver, who takes it herself for out number 2. So Hanley works 1 and 2. Wow. 6 batters. She struck out 4 of them. So Spangler set to work against Bump, and that's right back to the pitcher and thrown away. That'll be an error on Spangler on the throw. Had the
push count a little deeper and also find those mistakes.
Got a good cut at that one. Boy, and they just did get the runner at second. And here's Nikki Carver. After the home run, she was hit by a pitch, and now she's going to be on via an infield hit. That one's lifted to center. Abernathy's under it. Epley tags at second but holds. And a nice job by Stoddard to block the throw. And they're 2 away. Singled in her only plate appearance. That ball's hit pretty well to center, but Abernathy has got a beat on it and hauls it in. That's a chopper that's going to be trouble. Boy, did you see that right there? It's like that ball took that same right-handed turn.
The box to hit for Kentucky.
Kowalik hoping to get a good swing on this 0-2 pitch from Hanley. And that's going to be another tough play. That time made nicely, though. Tobias able to advance. That ball knocked right back up the middle for a base hit. They're going to bring, I thought they were bringing Tobias home. It was into short center field. Probably a good call on the part of.
And because Audie just brings it into second, they're on the corners.
Koffel with a fly ball to the right side. That's a difficult play, but a nice play that's made there. Now falls back to normal depth for Ohio State. Boy, and that one caught a lot of the plate, but it caught the corner as well. Up in the Kentucky pen. Got a couple of folks up for the Buckeyes with sweatshirts on, and that ball is lifted to left.
This mix of pitches.
Nice play by Stoddard. who didn't have to move at all. And that one's lifted to center again. Not enough. And nothing going for the Buckeyes in the fourth. Thrown by Handley as she works into the bottom of inning number 4. Chopper to third. Boy, that was a nice play down there by Bump. And that's strikeout number 6.
Yep.
Got her on strikes. Strikeout number. Slide out to center in the second. And that ball over to the right side of the diamond and taken care of by Amy Blaine, who re-entered for Tobias.
Pulls the string. Beautiful changeup.
Squares to bunt and makes Smith field it. Excuse me, Harrison. And an X in the fourth. She pounds another one into left field for a base hit.
Not a starter when the year began, but got a start when they were down at USF and has not left the starting lineup since.
Hot shot to Koffel. And she goes to the middle of the diamond for the out.
But yeah, tonight, Handley is handling them.
Only 1 of 4. And that's kind of a microcosm. 1-2 is Handley goes hunting for her 8th strikeout and got it. And a 3-2 pitch is popped up to shallow left. Ruberti gets it. And that'll do it.
Not many teams made it out of the Big Ten to make it to postseason.
And Spangler. High chopper. And that one goes just foul, but after what happened the other day, that was the perfect way for Stoddard to play it. Boy, and that's a base hit. Nice piece of hitting there by Quartercracks, and there was just nothing. The deals at 3-2. And there it is again. Wow. First pitch hitting. Tough play, but nicely made by Koffel. Big time throw across the diamond.
Just filmed it, or we just taped it today. Sweeps across the country. Maybe those players that some of us would pay to go watch to see.
Riley Smith, tough play. Not surrendered an extra base hit. And got Koffel for
here tonight.
Renee Abernathy as Smith goes and gets herself into scoring position with a head first slide. That's a liner through the right side. They're going to wave Smith home. Now they hold her. Wow. Christine Himes was absolutely waving her home so hard I thought her arm was going to fall off. And then she hit the brakes.
Well, with runners in scoring position this year, Abernathy is hitting .419. Has 26 RBI on the year with runners in scoring position and comes through again with a key hit for Kentucky. Smith over there at second base has to make sure that that ball is through before she advances. Himes holds her up.
There's a liner to second. And that's a second out of the inning. And looking to shut it down. 10th strikeout of the night. and she gets out of a huge jam. Always got to play it. That could have popped back into fair territory. And Spangler with a 1-2. Koffel takes care of her, and there's one gone.
That.
Boy, that is shot to left for a base hit. And it gets past Johnson. Ruberti into second. In trouble.
You saying he doesn't have a vertical?
Did not. And got her on the change. Strikeout number 3 for Tatum Spangler, and it's a big one.
Hurt her defensively.
And so with 2 outs, here's Hackenbrack. Boy, and she lifts one to center. It's going to take Abernathy back to the track, but she hauls it in. Nothing going. And she gets Babs looking. Strikeout number 11.
Under the hands of Babs. Strikeout number 11.
Spangler off the hands. That ball stays fair. And they get her.
Big hitters at the top.
Rounder to third. And behind the outstanding pitching of Lexi Handley and 2 homers, Ohio State comes into John Kropp Stadium and gets a big one as they knock off the Cats 3-0.
Yeah, this is definitely.
There's only one place to find the most recognized brand in carpet, Stainmaster, and that's at Lowe's. Right now, get free basic installation with the purchase of Stainmaster carpet and pad, $4.99 or more. Lowe's, home to any budget, home to any possibility. Install available in-store only. Requires non-refundable site assessment fee. Fee is credited to final project price if bought through Lowe's. More charges may apply. Not available in all areas. See Lowe's.com for details, exclusions, and licensure. Valid 2/19 through 4/13. U.S. only.
Hello and welcome to Gamers Getting Older,
where a group of older gamers get together,
talk about the good old days of gaming,
and how times have changed for the better or worse. I'm Brendan.
I'm Steven.
I'm Nick, and we are
Gamers
Getting Older.
Wow, that was
perfect, guys. Perfect.
Yeah, that was good, but not great.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Gamers Getting Older. Today we're talking about the Nintendo 64, an exciting system that was released at the dawn of us being children and being able to rent video games with Christmas money. So it's going to be a fun, nostalgic throwback. How do you guys feel about the Nintendo 64? You guys have some fond memories?
I love the Nintendo 64, especially its goofy controller. Definitely a lot of fun memories from...
What a beautiful controller.
It was. From Zelda all the way to Donkey Kong to Banjo-Kazooie, like Mario, just you go anywhere. StarCraft.
Don't forget the all-time favorite, GoldenEye.
GoldenEye was a golden game. Absolutely. You know, the funny thing about the controller, an interesting factoid about that is it not complete solely, but a lot of the design around the controller on the analog stick was due to Morimoto. I believe it's Morimoto, the Mario guy. Correct, guys?
You got me there. I don't know.
Wait, hold on. I'm thinking Morimoto might be Masaharu Morimoto, the Iron Chef.
That's what I was about to say was Iron Chef, but
yeah. Can we get a confirmation on Mario creator's name? Miyamoto was involved in the design of the analog stick for the Nintendo 64 because he knew that Super Mario 64 was moving in the 3D direction, and he wanted the controls to be a very dialed in, unique, specific control scheme. That's why it's hard to learn, hard to master, but once you master it, you can move so fluidly in that game. So a lot of the design around the analog stick itself was from Miyamoto's team working on N64's Super Mario 64. Now that's not the entire design scheme for the controller. It was mainly designed so that you could have maybe say like the NES or SNES 2D style games. You could hold the D-pad and the buttons, and that would be like a kind of like a Super Nintendo controller. Of course, the other way would be holding it with the middle and right side of the controller. But they also, the design philosophy in mind was that most games don't even use every button on the controller. So they designed it so that you could use some in some positions, and the other ones that you couldn't reach, you wouldn't really need for the game you were playing because it wouldn't be designed in that way.
Yeah, I kind of like, now that you mention that makes sense, because I always wondered how, when I was playing a game and I was holding, the middle the Joy-Con, using the joystick and the Z button on the bottom, I never really needed to use the left one that much, because I was always like trying to figure out how I got my thumb to like shift all the way over there. I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. You didn't really need to use it. I mean, you could if you wanted to, but checking yours, Steven?
Yeah, I couldn't remember. I didn't want to say this and sound stupid. I couldn't remember if it had left and right bumpers. Yeah, so that's what I was thinking too. Like, I don't ever remember playing a game where I had my hand on the joystick and needed to hit the left bumper. Because even like Super Mario 64, like you're saying, the camera controls and everything was all on the.
That's why you had the trigger on the bottom.
Exactly. Yeah, everything was on the Z trigger.
Yeah, the Z button, the most elegantly placed button of all buttons.
Yeah, that was great.
Right on the knuckle.
Target, everything. I loved it. The controller is amazing.
That's what I love about the Oculus Quest 2 controllers, is because you have the trigger, but you also kind of get that Z button feel.
Yeah,
because it has the grip trigger.
Yeah,
it's just nice.
Yeah, I actually really love the 64. It was something that I got recently. Well, it was last year for my birthday. A friend of mine bought me one, and I was really excited to have like a physical 64 again. I've played a lot of stuff on emulators and everything as I've gotten older, but it was really cool to have an actual system again with some games that you can hook up and play on a TV. He bought it used from a game store, and when I got it, it really felt like the old days because the joystick would stick to one side and wouldn't reset itself because it was so just gunky and nasty. So I actually took it apart and cleaned it. The inside of those controllers actually are not made up very much. It's a very small chip. It's super easy to like open up and clean and take apart that joystick thing. I think the hardest part about that is just the spring in it. So it's a little difficult to reset. Once you clean it takes maybe 15, 20 minutes to clean. That thing works like good as new. It was amazing. I started playing some Mario Kart with it, and it was fantastic to use again.
Yeah, they actually released there's guides online on how to take it apart to clean it because it's such an issue with them getting stuck like that. Another funny thing about the joystick is, did you guys ever hear about the issues that came about from people causing damage to their hands playing Mario Party?
Yes.
Spinning the joystick?
Yeah, on the inside of your palm. Yes, every time. I used to have a scar for the longest time there. It's starting to slowly go away, but I did have like a little mark from constantly like the muscle memory of
Mario Party was the ruiner of friendships. I mean, I think it was worse than some other games. That game could be so hostile among friends.
Mario Party was definitely the monopoly of video games.
It was so fun. I remember when the first one came out, it was a really exciting rental from Family Video, but I was grounded at the time and I was a kid and I didn't know what to do. I was mad. I wanted to play Mario Party with my brother. He was playing it. It looked like he was having a great time. So I was very angry that I couldn't participate in this great time. So I defaulted to, I laid on the floor and did half-ass sit-ups angrily just to show that my mom I was angry and just like watched him from a distance play Mario Party. I'm a pathetic child.
I'm going to show you. I'm going to get in shape and watch him play video games.
If only I had that mindset today.
Yeah, instead I just get mad. I'm like, I'm going to go eat a box of cookies.
Yeah, it's basically fuck this, I'm out.
Yeah, I love going back and looking at the graphics of those games now compared to when we were kids. And it's just like, I remember them being better. Like you look at GoldenEye, it's just like, for that, like this example. You know, I remember this really fluid game, seeing like these fantastic, characters and the amazing level. And then you go back and it's the super blocky, like faces with no actual structure, like features. And it's just like, there's no eyes. It's just like a line. And everything's blocky.
Well, and one of the funny things about that game too is pretty much all of the characters have like this weird kind of like face texture spread over their face, to look like Pierce Brosnan and other people.
Yeah.
But a lot of the people that show up, like the NPCs, are like the devs that worked on the game that they just peeled their faces onto. They peeled their faces onto the NPCs, so you're just murdering like all the people that made the game as you go through.
That's amazing.
But what a great game. I mean, a lot of people would say that Perfect Dark is better. It's hard to argue that, but it is easy to argue that Perfect Dark would not exist without GoldenEye.
Yes. I will say I'm biased. We played pretty much nothing but GoldenEye, so it's always going to be better to me over Perfect Dark. But I mean, how many times did you have a party of playing multiplayer for Perfect Dark? How many times did you for GoldenEye? I mean, I can count probably on one hand Perfect Dark, but looking at GoldenEye, I mean, it was almost every single weekend.
Yeah, I think that's probably the same for me too. Perfect Dark, we played probably a lot when it first came out, but then ultimately we kind of reverted back to playing GoldenEye.
Yeah.
And I think it was just some of the game modes and things like that always drew us back to GoldenEye. Golden Guns was always just a fun mode to play. Everybody was one shot kill. The things you could do with the proximity mines.
I loved proximity mines and remote mines. Those were so damn funny.
They were the best, especially like you talk about like the game rendering and being blocky, like seeing how many you could stack before they would just disappear because the game just couldn't render anymore. You'd have like 10 of them stacked out of a wall. Those were definitely the best thing though in multiplayer, because you could just rig an entire room full of them and somebody walks in and they're done for.
Yeah, I mean, Perfect Dark had a lot of really interesting guns though. I mean, the rail gun comes to mind immediately, that you could shoot through the walls and just kill anybody from anywhere. And the guns had different modes. Like there was one that you could stick to a wall and it would become a turret and it would just stay on the wall. But I think you could also continue to using the piece that you had left in your hand as like a pistol or something. It had a lot of really cool stuff, but I always played GoldenEye as well, just because it's what we knew. And I was also a big Bond fan. I grew up watching all of the classic Bond films with my dad. So, I mean, in kindergarten, I was born with no enamel on my teeth. So I had to have every tooth in my mouth pulled, except for a couple of the big ones on the sides and the back. And those they had capped with stainless steel. So my dad called me Jaws, like all of my childhood anyway. And if you don't know who Jaws is, he's from, I believe, the James Bond film Moonraker, where he's played by a very large man. His teeth are all jagged steel, and he could basically bite through anything like a shark.
Speaking of GoldenEye, did you guys see that there's a possible of it being remastered and re-released on Xbox with multiplayer?
I did, and I think it would be awesome.
I'm stoked.
Yeah, absolutely. There's already mods that you can download offline when you're emulating the game that lets you play it with a normal controller, so that you don't have to have the weird, you can aim properly and not have to use the C buttons.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To aim up and down and side to side.
So have you gone back with a 64 and actually played GoldenEye anytime recently?
Yes, I have.
Every time I do, I am terrible.
Oh,
like
awful.
I start walking and my guy just immediately goes like, aims up towards the sky, or I'm aiming down at my feet. I'm like, how did I do this when I was a kid? I have no idea.
Yeah.
Like it's just like doing it now. I mean, I can play on the computer, I can play Xbox, I can do everything. I can learn it within 5 seconds. But trying to relearn the 64 controls for GoldenEye usually takes me a little bit longer to like get that quick, because you used to be able to just walk around the corner, really quick whip to the left, kill somebody, and then bam, you're right back going the way you were. I mean, now it's like, you die to like an NPC and the facility, doing the actual freaking quest in there.
The story missions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played the first level recently and on the dam level, and I got the sniper rifle, that fire extinguisher with a scope on it. If you remember that, I tried to use it. I don't know what the heck it was going on, but I don't know how I ever sniped in that game. It's ridiculous.
Yes.
Like it's shaky, it's hard to move, and then like the AI is like, oh, he's aiming at me. I'm just gonna move a little bit.
Yeah. Just left, nope.
So many good games though. And like we recently talked about with the Dreamcast, having the back option in the 64 controllers, like when they came out with the Rumble Pad or the Rumble Pack.
Yeah.
Something that added more to the game and games that utilized that, which I thought was really cool.
Well, just like, you've got the expansion pack that you could have popped in the front of it and you had to have it for, what was it, Donkey Kong?
Donkey Kong 64 came with it.
Yeah, you had to have that expansion pack, otherwise you couldn't. Because I remember one time I wanted to play Donkey Kong 64, and it wouldn't work because I didn't have the expansion pack, and I had to really quick pop it out, pop the expansion in, and then play.
Do you know what the expansion pack was and what it was for when that came out?
Wasn't it just memory?
It was. It was RAM. It was additional RAM for the N64.
Jesus.
So it increased the N64 from 4 megabytes to 8 megabytes.
Yeah. Well, didn't DK64 like crash the system without it? So like they were like, "What are we gonna do about this?" And they're like, "Ship it with it."
It's just absolutely crazy to think that it was 4 megabytes, 4 megabytes, and the expansion was an additional 4 megabytes.
Just
of RAM.
Think about that though. Like the games we used to play, like that's it. Like 4 megabytes, whatever, was enough. Now you wouldn't even be able to play a single game today like that.
Right. My PC now is running 64 gigabytes of RAM.
But come on, that expansion pack looked dope. It was like black and it had that red grid lining on top of it.
Little holes
it was
all
cool.
across the top. Yeah.
It was like future shit. Like if you didn't have it, you were a punk. Did you guys name your 64 controllers, by the way? At our house, we played a lot of GoldenEye, a lot of Smash Brothers, a lot of Perfect Dark, stuff like that. We had our controllers. We had the red controller of death, the blue controller of pain.
I definitely did not.
I never did. Everybody always had that one though at your house that company used. Like you had that one friend that you're like, yeah, you use this one. I don't. At least we did.
It's the one as kids we didn't know. Yeah, we didn't know how to clean.
Yeah,
so it'd stick and
it's that
the A button wouldn't always come back up. Yeah,
this controller's broken. Let me use the other one. No, that's why you have that one.
Yeah, I always used the red one. My brother always used the blue one. I just thinking about it, when Pokemon first came out, I got Pokemon Red and he got Pokemon Blue. Coincidence?
I think not.
Or were we just born mortal enemies? So says the team over at Rooster Teeth.
Did you guys get one of the fancy like see-through 64s that they had?
Don't even start talking about nuclear purple, that atomic purple. Atomic purple. Anything Nintendo atomic purple, I just gush over.
Yeah, I love it. I had the orange one. The see-through orange. I loved it.
Dude,
when you started talking about like your favorite controller, the blue and the red, I was like, that was my controller. It was always either the orange or because we had a green one, and so I was either the green or orange. Like whenever we played,
Nintendo Atomic Purple, give me all of it. I want all of it. Like my first Game Boy Color was Atomic Purple, and ever since then, anything I can get that's Atomic Purple, give it to me. I love it.
I have to say, there's one game that comes to mind, only because of the new expansion that's out for Monster Hunter that brings me back to the 64 days. Turok, Dinosaur World. Do you guys remember playing that?
Yep.
I think it was Dinosaur Hunter.
Dinosaur Hunter. Yeah.
Yeah. No, Dinosaur World is the new sequel trilogy Disney is making.
But I remember playing so much Turok, and you could get so many different weapons and like arrows and all sorts of things to hunt dinosaurs.
I love Turok.
It was such an amazing game.
Do you remember the multiplayer? You could play as a velociraptor,
Yes.
And you could headshot people, and there was a one-shot kill. So you would constantly like hide on top of a rock to try to like jump and try to slash somebody's dome piece with your claws. But it would ultimately fail. They turn around and kill you with their gun, with their hands.
Yeah.
Such a
What
good
about
one.
what about the Tony Hawk games? Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
I liked that they were on 64 because all the specials had different sounds from the PlayStation, so it felt like a brand new game for some reason.
Yeah, I remember playing, like, the soundtrack for Tony Hawk Pro Skater was just amazing. Playing that, like, I could still, if I hear a song on the radio, it'll just like hit, and I'm like, oh man, that takes me back. Like, I just imagine just grinding out in like Chicago or like the big warehouses and stuff, and just going all over the place on that. Nope, guess not. Tony Hawk.
I actually don't remember playing Tony Hawk on the 64. I remember playing it on the PlayStation, but I don't remember playing it on the 64.
I played on the 64.
Yeah, I remember playing it on the 64 just because it had the different sounds, and I liked it a lot.
Yeah, you had Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 all on 64.
Yeah, 64 rocked, man. You know, a wonderful game on the Nintendo 64 that we played a lot was Harvest Moon 64. I think we've talked about Harvest Moon before. It was a really, really fun game, and me and my brother used to rent it, and we would take turns playing to see how far you could get, but you could only have one save, I think. So you would do it, and we would play like as far as you could have 3 saves, but we did a challenge to see who could get farther in 1 hour of playing the game. So like the most money, get people to like you, get your farm going. Like in 1 hour, how far can you get? Me, my brother, and his friend Steve, both people who are older than me. I'm the youngster at the time, and we all just took turns for 3 hours, starting this game over every hour to see who could get farther. Just farming and stuff. It wasn't even like an action game. We were farming and giving gifts to women.
Another one that I remember, I think it shipped with the Rumble Pack. I think it's when the Rumble Pack became big, was Star Fox 64. And I remember it having
barrel roll.
Well, and I remember it having secrets and stuff and levels, like stuff that you had to do in order to get like different endings and to like accomplish different things in levels and unlock secret levels and stuff, which I always thought was really cool back then for a game to do that, to have kind of its own Easter eggs to be able to unlock more and do more. I remember playing so much Star Fox 64 when that came out.
Yeah.
It was probably one of my favorite games on N64.
A game I played a lot was one of the arcade games that came over as well was Gauntlet. Did you guys ever play that?
Oh, baby, don't even get me started.
Loved some Gauntlet.
We played the heck out of Gauntlet. I mean, the 64 was perfect for 4-player games.
Yeah,
it was built for 4 people to play at the same time. And Gauntlet it was so good at making 4 people just demolish creatures on screen. There were so many things happening. There was always like chicken to pick up and axes to throw, and like the announcer was really cool. Like, the wizard has gained a life.
Oh man, I remember that. That was.
Or what about everybody's favorites? Pokemon Snap.
Yes.
I loved me some Pokemon Snap.
Pokemon Snap on the 64 is and will always be my favorite Pokemon Snap game.
The most basic game that I remember playing for hours and hours and hours on end. And like, I loved how you had to like take pictures of certain Pokemon or do certain things in order to see like the evolution of a different Pokemon in that level.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was so crazy.
Yeah, and you had like this much time to get it done, right?
Yeah.
You had to do things like at the right time and the proper order so that at the end of the level, the Charmeleon will fall in the lava and it'll break out as a Charizard. You'll get to take a few pictures.
Or like taking pictures of the Dig Dug in a certain way to get the Dug Trio to pop up out of the ground.
Yeah.
There were so many like little secret things you had to do to get the right pictures and like force evolutions and stuff. That was a really good game. I have the new one. I enjoy the new one. It's fun.
I haven't played the new one. If I'm being honest, like I've really only ever played the one for 64. So it's kind of the only reason yeah, this one's my favorite.
Yeah. Well, that's the only other one.
Is it?
Like I remember when it came out, I went to Best Buy to buy it in person because that's the kind of person I am, I guess. And I couldn't find it anywhere, so I had to go up to a Best Buy guy, and I was like, "Hey, where's Pokemon Snap?" He showed me. It was on an end cap. I found it and I bought it.
Out of all the N64 games that you played, what do you think was probably kind of like the weirdest or like goofiest N64 game that you can recall playing?
Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Mystical Ninja. Not Mystical Ninja. Absolutely.
I think mine would be Clay Fighter.
Clay Fighter was great. Was it Clay Fighter 33 and a third? Was that the
63 and a third?
63 and a third.
Yeah.
Yeah, Clay Fighter was super fun. I think Boogerman was a guest. Was it Boogerman in that? A guest star fighter? I can't remember. But whatever. That game was super fun. I love that just claymation bashing.
Yes.
You know what the 64 was really good at was racing games. I mean, how many racing games did you play on the 64 compared to how many racing games you play on anything now?
Yeah, none. Like, well, you had the Star Wars Pod Racers.
Star Wars Pod Racers. You have Mario Kart, F-Zero.
Yeah, F-Zero.
Yeah, which by the way, F-Zero just came out on the Nintendo Switch Online, 64 part of the service or whatever. So you can play. We could play it together if we wanted to sometime. Because you can play all those games multiplayer online. San Francisco Rush 2049. Hello? Come on, cruising.
I was about to say cruising.
Well, there's the Wave
Cruising USA.
Cruising USA, and I think Cruising World as well.
The Wave Race 64. You run around on Wave Runners.
Wave Race. Yeah, I mean, the jet ski games.
Diddy Kong Racing.
Oh, so many good ones. So many good ones.com.
Did you guys ever play Conker's Bad Fur Day, though? Oh,
absolutely.
It's still to this day one of my favorite 64 games. Easily top 2 for me.
I love it. It's a super fun game. I think, did Rare make that? I think Rare made that.
Yes. Yeah, they did.
Rare had a really good track record for making games, and then they made Ukulele.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when I wanted to get... Well, I played Conker's Bad Fur Day at a friend's house, started to, and I wanted to play it myself at my house. And my mom wouldn't buy it for me because it had the M rating on it. So I had to wait for my dad to get home. So that way he would at least take me to rent it, if not buy it.
Yeah, that was the great thing about Conkers was my dad was like, "Oh, this is a game that I would enjoy, and I can be like that cool dad that lets them play it." You know, so it was win-win for us kids.
I think another one of the 4-player games that I absolutely fell in love with, mainly because it was like a port over from an arcade, was NFL Blitz.
Oh, yes.
Because I loved playing Blitz at the arcades. And then when it came out, and I remember early on, we would just randomly hit the buttons to try and get like big head mode and like unlimited turbo and all those sorts of things. And then you had the old websites.
All the symbols.
Yeah. And then when I'm trying to think of what one of the main websites we would go to. I know there was one that we all used.
Cheatcc.com.
Yes, cheatcc.com.
Cheatcc.com was my man, for sure.
I remember we would all go there when we're like, oh, we want to play with these cheats and we want big head mode, or we want this, and everybody would plug in something different so that you would have like 4 or 5 things or 4 things all at once to play as while you're playing NFL Blitz.
Yeah, we used to have to work to put in the cheat codes. Now you just paid $2.99.
Yeah.
that was definitely a good one. I wish that they would come out with another NFL game like that. It was like one of its it was like the only one I feel like they ever made. They may have made another Blitz, but I remember playing very much that, and I don't feel like it's ever came back.
I remember being at a friend's house playing it, and his dad was really big into football, and we started playing it, and he's just watching it, and he's like, "What is this? This is not football. Turn this off." And he like pulled it out mid-game, ripped it out of the 64, and would not let us play it. And so when he went to sleep, we grabbed it and started playing it ourselves. It's like, screw you. This was amazing. We want to play this. What is your guys' top 64 game? Or if you can't say top number one, maybe your top three.
I would need to do top three.
Okay. Top three games and go.
I'm gonna split genres. I'm gonna go Super Smash Brothers because what a game! I used to play that game so much. I remember I unlocked Captain Falcon on accident because I was playing it. I would wake up early and play it before school, and I was trying to beat the arcade mode before I had to leave for school. So I was just trying to get as fast as I could to beat it before I had to go to school. And then eventually I unlocked Captain Falcon. And I was like, this is amazing. That's how I'm so fast. But so Smash Brothers number one, I'm gonna say Super Mario 64. No, I'm gonna say Ocarina of Time / Majora's Mask. Those are one thing.
Yeah.
And then the third one, I'm gonna have to go. I need a top five. It's Mario Kart, it's San Francisco Rush 2049, it's Mario Super Mario 64. It's those two Zelda games, and for number 5 Smash Brothers, and then number 6 I gotta stop.
Nick's 1 through 100 games that he loves. Here we go. Steven, what's your top 5? Since Nick did 5.
My top 5s would have to be Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask as the pair of those together. Super Mario 64, because I just absolutely loved the open world-ish kind of concept of Super Mario 64. And then probably Duke Nukem 64. I really loved the Duke Nukem game, and Duke Nukem 64 was definitely a fun one to play. And then I would have to say probably NFL Blitz. I just really enjoyed. I've always enjoyed the football games, and that one was a lot of fun. As for number 5, that's a tough one because there's still so many good games out there.
GoldenEye for number 6 for me.
I'd have to put GoldenEye at number 5 as the top 5 games. I'm sure there's some that you're going to mention or somebody will mention later, and I'll be like, oh, that was a really good game too. But those are the ones that I can remember playing so much of all the time. I actually have a copy of GoldenEye behind me on my shelf.
7 is Harvest Moon 64. 8 is Paper Mario.
Well, I'm going to kind of go the same as you guys for the Zelda games. Both of them, number 1 for me. I definitely have to say probably number 2, which a very close second is which one did I say earlier? Damn it. Now I'm trying to think. Conker's Bad Fur Day. I don't know why I just drew a blank. So first, both Zeldas. Second, Conker's Bad Fur Day. I'd have to go third, honestly. Banjo-Kazooie. I loved that game. Absolutely, without a doubt.
Yeah, 9 is Banjo-Kazooie for sure.
Then GoldenEye. And what is that? 4? Mario Kart 64 would be my top 5.
How much Mario Kart? Okay, question about Mario Kart. Obviously we all played it multiplayer with people. Did you play it more racing or did you play the battle levels more?
See, as I used to love the battle, like when I was younger, I would say probably more of the battle as a younger player. More so now, if I play it, it's the racing because we do the drunk driving Mario Kart where you have to finish your beer by the end of the lap and you have to pull off to the side of the road to drink. And
oh, that's hilarious. That would be fun to do.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I played battle way more as a kid. I specifically remember that level that was like 4, like 2 or 3 level blocks that were all different colors, and they had the bridge that connected them up top. And on like the second level and third level, there was a bridge that connected them, and it was a big square with squares, and it would just do that. It was just this awesome level, and you just drove around and shot turtle shells at each other. It was great. One thing that I think that is really interesting and a good thing to kind of close this off with is, did you guys know that there was a planned expansion for the Nintendo 64, a full-on hardware expansion called the Nintendo 64 DD drive?
Really? I did not.
Yeah, I believe it was either Majora's Mask or Wind Waker. I might have been Wind Waker. I can't remember. It might have been Majora's Mask. It was originally being designed for this N64 DD drive, which was this. I mean, the way it looked was it was like a larger. It looked like a flat Nintendo 64 because you set your 64 on top of it, and it had a big drive, and these were like thick, like DD discs, like they were like it looked like they were like an inch thick. And a couple inches wide, and they look like giant floppy disks, and you just shove them in the front like big cartridges again. And it was an expansion on the entire system, so it could run games, better with more powerful hardware. And they were working on it in Japan. It might have released in Japan a little bit, but it didn't really go anywhere. And because they started working on the Dolphin, aka the GameCube.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's really interesting. If you're ever curious about it, there's a guy on YouTube that I watch a lot. His name is Metal Jesus Rocks. He's a retro game collector, and I love him. He's great. He's one of the best retro collectors on YouTube. But he actually has he found one of the pieces of hardware. It's a developer N64 DD drive. It's a US version, but he only has. But they didn't make any games or anything for the US version. So he has like some N64 DD games that he has from Japan, but the DD drive itself is region locked, so he can't play any of them. All he has is like the dev disc that it came with that they were using to like code games and like test stuff.
I'm looking at the picture of this. It literally looks like a mini, like VHS shaped like a 64 on the bottom. That's interesting.
Yeah, if you look at the bottom of your 64, it should have the expansion slot there because they had this in mind.
Yeah, I was just looking at it too, and it says that it didn't sell enough units to be profitable, mainly due to delays. There was 2 years delay, 2 years of delays in the making. But I was just looking at what it looked like as well, and you're right. This is something that they were thinking about because the bottom of the N64 has a removable plastic piece, and inside of it is a spot of where you would plug in the DD drive. So it would sit and plug into the bottom of the 64. That's crazy. I had no idea. I don't ever as a kid remember looking at the bottom of my 64 and thinking, what the hell is that for?
I think I opened that up just to blow in it because maybe the 64 wasn't working. So you just blow in everything to try to get it to work. But there's so many more games that we could talk about. I think we'll probably have to revisit this topic because I mean the N64 was prolific for our generation because we were just at that age where we were like old enough and smart enough to know what we liked and what we wanted, and we didn't have jobs. Weren't old enough to make money, but what we did have were report cards. And what did Family Video do for A's? A free rental. So I would take my report card down and I'd get to rent my 1, maybe 2 video games. I wasn't that great in school. But I specifically remember getting the Star Wars Pod Racer game rented because of an A I got in school. So boom.
Now this is pod racing.
Definitely a great system. I actually, like I said, I still have one now, and I do love hooking it up and playing it. I actually need to get another controller because I've only got one controller right now. But
mine's hooked up to my retro station right now. I have a little station that has an old tube TV, and I have my 64 hooked up. I've got my PS2 hooked up, and I've got my original Xbox hooked up. I actually just bought a handful of old, I almost said new Xbox games, original Xbox games. I don't remember what all I bought, but I was pretty excited about it at the time. I think I got like Dead or Alive. I got Bloodwake. It's called Bloodwake, which is Twisted Metal but with boats. So that's pretty exciting. I got Munch's Odyssey. It's pretty fun. Just a couple that I've been wanting that I saw over down at Killian's.
Yeah, I was gonna say my 64's hooked up right here behind me, and it's got Ocarina of Time in it because I was playing it not too long ago.
Do you guys ever use the Nintendo 64 online Switch application?
I do actually. I recently started Ocarina of Time, and I am through the first 2 dungeons as Young Link.
Nice.
I play it on occasion, like when the wife wants to hang out, but I don't really want to watch TV. I'll take the Switch and I'll play kind of some N64 games or other games on the Switch. But yeah, I was really excited when they came out with that. I know a lot of people, there's a lot of backlash because of the price difference, but really it wasn't that expensive to pay for the difference and get the N64 stuff. And they run pretty well. I know there's a few people that said that they felt like there was a delay but I didn't really feel like I had that issue because I was playing for a while on the external controller. I had no issues playing Zelda. I didn't feel like there was some trigger delay or things that people were experiencing. It was great. It was definitely difficult to get used to. You're kind of talking about GoldenEye and not doing well with the controls. I was playing Ocarina of Time and I'm in the castle and I've got my slingshot and I'm trying to do the thing where you shoot the rupees, the little mini game, and I'm like jerking way left, way right. I'm like, I remember doing
we
this
used to
with
be
these
assassins with
as a
that
kid.
bow, and now it's just the only way I can aim properly in that game nowadays is if I play the Nintendo DS version, which has motion controls. So that I just kind of move my hands a little bit, and I'm like, there we go.
I haven't got the online version of it yet, so for any of the 64 stuff, I want to, I need to.
You haven't subscribed to Nintendo Switch Online?
Haven't. I have the online. I just haven't upgraded it to get the 64. I have not upped yet. I still have the online. I just haven't upgraded. I have a 64 behind me with all the games that I want to play right now.
I love
anyway.
laying in bed playing Paper Mario.
Leave me alone.
So nice. They recently added Earthbound to the SNES application as well, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, so I think it's safe to say that we are all big fans of the Nintendo 64. I think that this, like I said before, this is probably going to be a topic we revisit because I don't think that 30 minutes, 40 minutes is enough to really encapsulate everything that we have to say about all of the nostalgic memories around this console.
Something that we've missed over the last few episodes is a good, not great. Can you think of any N64 game that you played that was good but not great into comparison of the games of like the N64 genre as a whole?
I would say the good, not great for a game would probably be StarCraft 64. What do you guys think?
I think that's you're talking about the one, the StarCraft port from PC to 64.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a good choice.
And why would you say that? Because I never played it on PC. I didn't have any of the PC. Just curious, because I didn't have a PC with those games early on. Was it smoother on PC, I assume? Obviously, PCs would have more.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely felt smoother when I played it on PC just because you were able to use the hotkeys and everything for the keyboard. The scrolling on the map was a lot easier than just using the joystick. And because I've never been one, even back then, I never was one that liked scrolling the mouse, because on the StarCraft 64 you still with the Joy-Con were moving the mouse across the screen and had to click on stuff and drag and select. And so actually playing it on the computer versus 64, I would say it definitely was good on the 64. I had a lot of fun, but it wasn't great.
I can see that. Yeah, that would make sense.
I definitely agree there. I mean, as a kid, being introduced to StarCraft, not knowing about the PC market and seeing this game that we had never seen before and learning that there was a way to play it that didn't involve holding a boomerang, where you could actually select things properly. And there was a lot of hotkeys. You could save formations. It was like Control 1, Control 2 or whatever. So you could save like packs of dudes to reselect later. I mean, it really broadened the horizon. So it was good in the sense that, like, yeah, it introduced us to StarCraft. But the controls when you jump over to PC, I mean, the PC version, that's the great one.
Yeah, I don't know that I ever played it on 64, but I could definitely see what you're talking about as far as the joystick moving a mouse around would make things very difficult versus just actually having a mouse in your hand and being able to do that and then still operate everything else with the other hand on the keyboard. I'm trying to think. I played a game recently that was like that. Well, I guess I haven't actually played, but one that I think of that I played a little bit with controller when they added the controller support was Diablo 2, the remastered. And to me, that's still been weird. I know that Brendan, you played on the Switch.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess to me, that would be kind of what I would think in my head. I played it so much on PC that I was so used to the mouse control with the keyboard that playing it on a controller was just different to me. You're not having the ability to hit control or whatever to see all the items on the ground and that sort of things. It was just different. Trying to play with the controller or would be the same idea as kind of playing it on the Switch. To me, playing with mouse and keyboard on a computer is what made Diablo 2 great.
Yeah, controls matter. Controls definitely can change the entire way you look at a game. I mean, look at Resident Evil 1 compared to the Resident Evil 2 remake. I mean, it's the same formula, the same kind of item management, but it's broken away from the static cameras and the tank controls, and you're just free to just sprint around like a madman.
Yeah, just crazy to think how games have changed in that aspect, and how some games even changed within the same system, like having those tank controls, and then the new game comes out and it's still using the same system, but the controls are better. You know, they found ways to code it better and still use the same, you know, controller, and you get a better feel for the game itself, just because they're able to code those movements better versus just up, down, left, right. Now you have, you know, up, left, and down, right, and you can move at angles and not just that tank style forward, back, left, right style of movement.
Yeah, I love playing games from like the NES up, because like if you're playing your little sprite and you do a full turn on like the joystick or whatever, and it just goes, you know, north, south, east, west. But then you play like a game later and it hits all 8 points on the compass, and you're like, okay, I see, we're a little farther along the road.
Yeah,
for this game. Well, that's going to do it for the Nintendo 64 episode. Thanks for hanging out with us gamers getting older. We're off to go buy a bunch of black clothing and gloves to go break into a local retro gaming store. Hopefully they have a lot of really good games for us to steal. So unless we're in prison, we'll see you next week.
And don't forget to follow us on social media. That's Gamers Getting Old on Twitter and Gamers Getting Older on Instagram. Also check out our merchandise at gamersgettingolder.com. You're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go Mac, right? Like,
do it, baby.
The Triple B Podcast would like to invite you to come break bread with your brothers. If you like what you're hearing on the show, if you think we missed the mark, or if we got it all wrong, reach out to us on social media. We can be reached on Twitter at triple_B_pod, or search Brothers Breaking Bread Podcast. We are the Brothers Breaking Bread on Facebook, and our email is brothersbreakingbreadpod@gmail.com. Further descriptions are in the show notes. Like, follow, friend, do all that good stuff, and please never forget to break bread with your brothers.
How y'all doing? We out here, chilling in the spot. What up? How y'all doing? We out here, chilling in the spot. What up? How y'all doing? We out here, chilling in the spot. How y'all doing? We out here, chilling in the spot. What up?
Hey, what's going on, y'all? Brothers Breaking Bread Podcast in the house. Hey!
We're out a little hot left. It'll be good.
Yeah, let's make it happen. Let's not just talk about it. This is a beautiful thing, man. It's all this blackness, and we all just getting together, we playing dominoes, we eating, we drinking. And, you know, food is always just the extra, man. They deprive these people of their basic human rights. You know, and we call ourselves Americans. We're supposed to be above all this.
They'll fake the crisis. They'll make it seem way out of proportion.
We brothers, we breaking bread. How y'all doing? We out here, chilling in the spot. What up?
Trying to hold it all together, man. Life is moving fast right now, man. So it's good to have everybody come through. I love that, man. I love it a lot, more than I could say to you guys.
Any one of us senators could yell as loud as we want that Venus can't return a serve. We could yell as loud as we want that Beyonce can't sing. We could yell as much as we want that astronaut Mae Jemison didn't go all that high. But you know what? They got nothing to prove. As it says in the Bible, let the work I've done speak for me. Well, you have spoken. You started speaking as a little girl, watching that man right there try to raise a family and study law while your mama supported everybody. You spoke in high school when you started distinguishing yourself. And you know what you said when they told you you couldn't go to Harvard? Watch me. I went to law school. I didn't serve on the law review. You did. I didn't clerk at every level of the federal court. You clerked for a Supreme Court justice, one widely respected on both sides, which really shaped you. You left there and you went to private practice, and you know what you found? This is what you told me. That you had those tough choices that working moms have to make, the demands of a private law firm, raising your kids. It just didn't add up. You went before this Senate 3 times in a bipartisan manner. God bless America. We don't do that much stuff bipartisan around here. You became a public defender because you wanted to understand all aspects of the law. Who does that? We live in a society that's very materialistic sometimes, very, very consumeristic. You went into, do people become public defenders for the money? No.
Hey, what's going on out there, y'all? Triple B Podcast, Brothers Breaking Bread back in the house. I had to stop because I didn't have my picture up. And then when I put the picture up, all I saw was my man, Joe Jeff, holding a big-ass can of Country Time Lemonade. I almost started laughing. I love it. I done it. Hey, that shit got water in it.
Right.
I said, I didn't know what was happening, but I said, I know, ain't gonna be no water added to that shit.
No. Not at all.
It is 10 o'clock at night. I know this nigga ain't about to make a thing of fucking Country Time Lemonade.
Right. Shout out to 360 vodka.
Shout out. Oh man, yeah. We here, man. 10 meters, Zeb the Soldier, half of the Brothers of Doom, Joe Jeff. I'm the KC Stork. What is going on, fellas? How we living?
We living. One day at a time.
All right, so let's do some check-ins so we can get it in. How you living, Tim? What's going on, Chief?
Man, I'm doing okay. I'm back in Louisiana now. I was just up in Kansas City over the weekend, and everything was great. I had a great time. Saw some folks that I needed to see. And one quick shout out to Miss Kim. Very nice lady. She graced me with her
honey bun cake.
Honey bun cakes.
Oh snap!
Man, I am a fan. I have never tasted something so heavenly.
We're talking about cake, right?
Before in my life.
You got the cake?
Cakes.
Okay, I was making sure.
Kim's Cakes.
What?
Yo.
So, hold on, man. It's a cake that tastes like a honey bun. That's what we talk about. I'm not getting confused, am I?
It's a cake. It's a cake that she has used honey bun spices and the glaze on it. It's excellent.
It's shit.
Oh man, yeah, that sound fire.
Man, yeah. She made 2 for me. One didn't leave Kansas City, and the other one was clinging on to life till it got to New Orleans. Man,
I'm still tripping off of how heavenly Kim's cakes taste.
Oh man!
Wow.
Hey Joe, I know where you're trying to go with this.
I'm like, damn, the fuckery is already starting. We are very early in the podcast. We are at the not the 5-minute mark.
Hey, just so y'all know, I had to heavily. No, I had to heavily edit the last episode. I really had to edit the last episode, guys.
Oh, come on.
Watch him out.
Yeah, watch out.
I saw that.
Wait a minute. We laugh at people getting shot on this podcast.
Say what?
I said we laugh at people getting shot on this podcast.
Hey, that's one thing. When we laughed at last time, that's the whole other bag, bro.
I'm just saying, it kind of goes with the conversation we had in the pregame.
I think it was a little bit over.
We'll handle this in the post game.
Post game.
We're not gonna talk about that live.
All
right. Anyway, but like I said, man, shout out to Miss Kim. She also gave me 2 sweet smelling candles.
Yeah, she did make some good candles, yeah.
And yes, those last nice gifts and everything like that. But other than that,
so are you willing to go on record and say that Kim got the best tasting cakes?
Right on. I'm saying, shit, she got.
That's an affirmative.
She got the best tasting cakes in KC, man.
There we go. We talking about cakes. We talking about honey bun.
That's right.
Honey bun tasting cake. Y'all niggas. All right.
Honey buns.
All right,
you got the best tasting honey buns in Kansas City.
Well, thanks for coming. Thanks for coming through.
I'm sorry.
Chief. I appreciate it.
Honey buns and cakes.
Yes.
Okay.
Anyway, what's going on, Zam? How you living, Chief?
Damn it, Joe.
You know, man, my sweet tooth is activating. Or something's activating. I ain't really sure. I'm kind of confused. You know what I mean?
My diabetes meter.
But but yeah, man. Everything's cool, man. Got a little bit of good news for myself.
Okay.
Since the last episode, it ain't nothing crazy major, but I am now a legal medical marijuana patient for the state of Missouri.
Oh.
So I got my medical card last week, I think.
All right.
And so yeah, man. So I can now go to the dispensaries and I can do whatever the fuck I want.
Do whatever you want. So
you know what I'm saying? So yeah, man, that's a great thing. The whole time I lived in Denver, which was before they passed the recreational. This was like in 08, 09 rather, is when Obama was sworn, the year he took office.
Yeah, it was the year he took office, right?
Yeah, so they still had the medical thing. The whole time I was out there, I never bothered to get. I went to the doctor's office to get my medical card when I was there, when I first got there. But in my head, I was thinking a normal doctor's visit. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't bring a bunch of cash with me. Because it was just pay right there, you know. I'm thinking I'm gonna get a bill and shit. I don't know what my mind was at, you know. And I realized when I went that, oh shit, I ain't bring no cash with me, or enough cash to pay this bill, and I just never made it back. And so we passed the law, or the law took effect I think last year here for our medical. So it's been dispensaries popping up
everywhere.
Well, I haven't really been at the crib enough in Kansas City, especially in the daytime, to be able to peep shit. But here in Columbia, we definitely been having dispensaries pop up. They got a superstore a few minutes away from me. So yeah. Anyways, man, I'm happy. I went on and finally stopped procrastinating and got that done.
Nice.
And thank you to all the Missouri voters that helped to pass that, man. The next step is full legalization on the state level, at least.
Yep.
So
in the city, it's like liquor store, check cash, weed dispensary. Liquor store, check cash, weed dispensary.
Straight up.
And them shits look like,
that's a beautiful thing. I love it.
They look like strip clubs. They got them blackened out windows and shit.
I love it,
I was
man.
like, is that a strip club or a weed spot? I can't tell. Then you read the name.
You know what, bro? That's what I thought. That's exactly when I first saw this superstore that we got here.
Yep.
It's called Shangri-La. I rolled by it at nighttime. And the lighting is like neon lighting, and it's like a pinkish type of color. You know what I'm saying? I was like, is this a new strip club or something?
Yep.
What the fuck is going on over here? You know what I'm saying? I found out a couple of days later that it was a dispensary. So
not quite a strip club, but
yeah, because they
have your fun.
I prefer dispensaries more than strip clubs, anyways.
Me too.
That was
At
never
least you
my
get
thing.
your money's worth at dispensary.
Exactly. But yeah, man. Other than that, everything's been everything. Everything's copacetic.
Awesome.
Just enjoying this nice wet. As the weather's getting nicer, been getting outside more, going to the park. Getting in some nice walks with the family and all that. So
that's good shit.
Just chilling, man. Just chilling.
Good stuff, man. Yeah, because I agree with you. There's a little spot next to the Aldi's I go to, off of Blue Ridge. It's a little across the street, And I was like, God damn, why they gonna open up a strip club right across from the Aldi's? And then it's a weed spot. Okay.
Right.
That makes sense. But good
Get
shit,
your
man.
medical card. Get your medical card.
Yeah, man, get it. It didn't cost that much. It cost, I think I might have spent a bill 50 on it.
Yeah.
You know, all together. I'm eventually, probably at least, I'm probably going to eventually get my grower's permit. But we'll see. I don't have any plans on it in the immediate future, but I eventually would like to get to that point.
All right, sir. Brothers Breaking Bread weed. Brought to you. All right.
Indeed.
We got the weed. All right.
The Triple B pack.
I like it.
That might be how we fund this motherfucker, really.
Hey.
Yeah, for real talk.
Like, I don't know what's going on, Triple B, but them niggas is real mellow. Joe and Roger ain't argued in a year.
What the fuck?
Oh,
that's shit. They don't went from strictly audio to video. It's got camera people and shit.
Nigga, it's just a fog, the whole podcast, nigga. All right, well, good shit, Chief. Good shit. Hey, what's up, Joe? What's going on, man?
Speaking of spring and bud, I did see some flowers budding on the trees today, so
some good wordplay there.
That's a good thing too.
So spring is officially sprung around here.
Yeah.
Even though it did snow earlier this week, so
I don't get it.
I'm on spring break and just trying to stay, doing some things to stay busy during spring break. So Friday today was the last day of it. Back to the grind on Monday. I got track meet tomorrow. Speaking of spring breaks and Zeb being in Colorado, I remember I spent a spring break in Colorado one time with that dude. And
yeah.
Bro, I was nervous the whole week, bro. Do not let them niggas kick in this house this week.
While I'm here. Yeah.
Oh, shit.
All these damn lamps down here in this basement. What the fuck? I did not.
Like I said, as I said, I didn't quite get my proper status while I was there, but it didn't slow. You know what they say, one monkey no show.
Right. So when he gets his grower's license, understand that the nigga is official. He knows what the fuck he's doing. He's been practiced.
You trying to say his basement look like the intro to Belly? A whole bunch of lights.
I'm trying to say it look like Jumanji, nigga.
Oh shit.
You hear that? Oh, wimbo, oh, wimbo, oh, wimbo, oh, wimbo, in the jungle, the mighty jungle.
You're a fool.
My bad. But go ahead, Joe, my bad.
Roger, what's good with you, man?
Oh man, I'm good. Shit, not much going on. Currently, I'm a Missouri nigga that's having to depend on KU to come through for me and lose a game, so that way I can win this goddamn bracket at the gig. You know what I'm saying? So that's it is the only person beat me got KU winning it. If KU can get that fucking lose this week, got $110 coming my way. You know what I'm saying?
Right. It ain't happening tonight.
It ain't happening tonight. No, I already saw that. I was okay. Come on, Providence, y'all big white ass. Why y'all so slow? God damn.
I did watch the St. Peter's game though.
Oh man,
I got a little bit of that too.
These niggas, they gonna be. I mean, they gotta lose eventually, but they gonna be the first like fucking 15 to be in the Final Four.
Well, they the first one in the 8.
Yeah.
First one
Are they?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Cause them niggas is balling.
Because remember, losing 15s losing to 2 was new about a decade ago. I think Mizzou was like the second one. You know what I'm saying?
I'm bringing up old shit.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah. But outside, I'm trying to think. I think I had an old nigga moment, but had an Archie Bunker moment, but I don't. Yeah, It probably has something to do with working with white people, but here
You have sound like you're having one right now.
I am. No, we got this this manager at the gig, and I don't know. Do y'all watch Big Mouth on Netflix?
Yeah.
This woman looked like one of them hormone monsters, but not in a good way. And I can't stop looking at her, dog. Every time I be in my head partying. But anyway, yeah. If y'all listening, type in Big Mouth hormone monster. When you listen, and then you'll just know that the person that's one of my managers who's worthless. She looks like that. Anyway, all good. Let's keep it moving. Let's get in here.
I'm like, which hormone monster? Because if she look like the dude, then like, ugh.
She look like the woman. She built like the hormone monster too. So that's not a compliment. Do you know how the hormone monster is built? Anyway,
yes.
Come on, is AC? Hold on, is he still on the boat?
He just said something.
I don't know. I think he out, but I'm not sure.
Nigga, how you sending messages but you ain't on the pot? Nigga, we see you, nigga.
Well, you know what? You didn't put. You usually send like you boot. I didn't see a message at least saying that you was booting up in like 30 or whatever. You know.
Oh my bad. Yeah, that did happen. But I sent the call out. But
you called. Yeah, you did.
Yeah, you called. So I that's what I saw.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
We started off with and I was gonna play Judge Jackson's friend. I'm gonna say that for the end to wash down this bullshit that we about to read and see and everything. Sorry, I adjusted without y'all approval. I'm sorry, but yeah, I was looking at these headlines and I was getting upset. Lindsey Graham storms out of Supreme Court hearing after meltdown on Chairman Durbin. Following 30 minutes of questioning of Supreme Court nominee Kajana. I'm fucking this up already.
Ketanji, I think it's Ketanji.
Ketanji Brown, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it is.
Senator Lindsey Graham took umbrage with Senate Judiciary Chairman Dick Durbin fact-checked some of his comments about the legal disposition of Guantanamo detainees, leading the South Carolina Republican to start yelling before leaving in a huff. And it's crazy, right? They're trying to use the fact that this woman who served as a public defendant for some time did her job. These detainees from Guantanamo Bay who were seeking representation in the court system, they were assigned to her, and now they're trying to like use against her that she did her fucking job as a public defendant.
Oh.
I mean,
so in other words, they again moving the goalposts.
I don't know if it's moving the goalposts, but it's I guess it is, but. A lot of what Graham was upset about had to do with a lot of this Guantanamo Bay shit, which is something like that shouldn't be fucking open to begin with. This black site off somewhere that you just go away forever.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, yeah.
As Durbin calmly corrected Graham while looking at his notes, Graham shouted over him, exclaiming, "The system failed miserably, and advocates to change the system like this nominee was advocating would destroy our ability to protect this country." I don't have a Graham voice. Sorry, I went old white racist. Sorry, my bad.
That's close enough.
But
you have to go southern. You have to go southern gentleman when you do it.
No, he ain't no damn gentleman. No.
Well, you know.
And here we go. Here's Graham continue. We're at war. We're not fighting crime. Isn't that what war is?
Pretty much.
Okay. I'm confused. I don't know what I was doing all right. Graham continued, his voice growing more shrill. This is not some passage of a time event. As long as they're dangerous, I hope they all die in jail. If they're going to go back to kill Americans, and understand that a lot of people who are in Guantanamo Bay were never charged or anything. They were basically, here you are in this village.
Just detained.
We're taking all you niggas.
Abu Ghraib. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Hope they all die in jail if they're going to go back to kill Americans. It won't bother me one bit if 39 of them die in prison. There's a better outcome than letting them go, and if it costs $500 million to keep them in jail, keep them in jail because they'll go back to fight. I think he should have had my nigga Samuel Jackson do this for him. Hell yeah, they deserve it. I hope they die. I hope they burn in hell. He needed Sam Jackson to come through for him. I hope they burn in hell. Because his bitch ass.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. I should have had that queued up.
At least they would have made it entertaining.
Yeah, I should have had that queued up. My bad. Look at freaking Afghan government made up former detainees that they'll go back to fight. Look at the freaking Afghan government made up of former detainees at Gitmo. The whole thing by the left about this war ain't working. Okay, he lost me there. But
nah, you should brought you want me on that wall. You need me on that wall.
Yeah, I've been listening.
We use words like honor, code, loyalty.
Hey, I've been listening to other podcasts. Like if me and Joe had time to fucking do drops like that, we would do drops like that. Like on the back end,
all day.
You need me on that wall. You want me on that wall. But yeah, man.
That's how my brain usually works in drops.
Yeah, It's crazy. Like it's like motherfuckers can't even like acknowledge the fact that it ain't like she went there and propositioned these people like she had like a fucking business card and went to Guantanamo Bay and said, "Hey, if you need legal representation, I'm your gal." Like no, these niggas were assigned.
Defender, so apparently she was assigned.
Yeah, these niggas were assigned to her to try to give some legitimacy to this illegal operation that we got going on in Guantanamo. You know what I'm saying? It's insane. And then you talking about in that $500 million, that's per prisoner. That's ridiculous. That's not keeping Guantanamo Bay itself open. It may not be per prisoner, but it might be like one or two. But it ain't $500 million just for the Guantanamo Bay. We talking about money.
It's way more than that.
We got niggas that can't get to fucking work who want to work because gas is damn near $4. But we paying $500 million for one or two niggas who ain't been charged with shit to keep a jail open.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck is wrong with this country, bro? We know what's wrong with it. Anyway, we don't get to
and they always want to talk about upholding the Constitution and all that shit. That's why they assigned the motherfuckers defense attorneys.
Yeah. Defense attorneys, right?
Because that's part. Those are some rights that are guaranteed. In our Constitution, the Bill of Rights and all that. So
I know. So,
but they can't. The thing is, and this the whole thing, man. Is that the thing is that they ain't got nothing legitimate to object. Yeah, to raise any legitimate objections to her nomination and confirmation. You know what I'm saying? So they got to come with all this bullshit.
So they can't use the obvious. She's a black woman.
You did your job.
Can't use that.
You did your job.
So,
That's what they going with. Yeah. You did your job, nigga. Shame.
What the fuck?
I cannot nominate you.
What you doing your job has to do with Senate confirmation.
Hold on. I think we had audio from this shit too.
Following 30.
Oh, I'm not playing this whole thing. Lady, hold on. There you is. Hello.
So I have a methodology that I use in my cases in order to ensure that I am ruling impartially, and that...
So your judicial philosophy is to rule impartially?
No, my judicial philosophy is to rule impartially and to rule consistent with the limitations on my authority as a judge. And so my methodology actually helps me to do that in every...
This nigga ain't even listening. You can tell.
No, he's not.
Right.
He's already trying to form the question in his fucking head.
Yeah.
Case.
Yeah.
Right.
You wouldn't say that you're an activist judge.
I would not say that.
Okay. So we'll have 20 minutes more later on, but here's what I would say. That every group that wants to pack the court, that believes this court is a bunch of right-wing nuts that are going to destroy America, that consider the...
And we talking about packing the court, nigga. A motherfucker step down.
Yeah.
This ain't got shit to do with packing the court, bro. There's a spot open on the team.
Yeah.
We ain't created a spot. And yes, I get that fucking Biden and Democrats have talked about fucking more spots packing. And never mind the fact that motherfucking Trump got 1, 2, 3 of them.
Right.
3 of them.
3
in a row.
We gonna talk about packing the court, man.
And turn one of them seats, right?
Hey, do not leave. If you're gonna start pointing fingers, do not leave Mitch McConnell out of that conversation because that's the motherfucker who orchestrated the whole thing.
Oh, he's in here. Don't worry, brother Joe. He's in. He
his bitch is coming up.
His bitch ass is in one of these tabs. Don't you worry, brother. Don't you worry.
Don't you worry.
But
look, man.
when it comes to court packing, he's a court packing master. That's all.
That's right.
Yeah.
He's a court.
And at the end of the day, the only people that can pack the courts is the president and the motherfucking and the Senate. So you know what I mean? Because the president nominates candidates and the Senate approves them.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
No. So I'm not 100% sure on that. The number of justices is not set in the Constitution. We've had different numbers over the years. We had 5 at one point. We had 7 at one point.
Right? Yeah, of course.
But what I'm saying is they could go to 11. They could go to 15. I'm not sure that's only on Senate. That might be on the House too. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, that aspect. I was just saying, as far as
increasing the number.
You can have groups. You can have outside groups that are advocating for packing the court a certain way, but the only way that it can actually get packed, the only way that any justice can actually become a Supreme Court justice is they have to get nominated by the president and they have to be confirmed by the Senate. You know what I'm saying? Now, when you're talking about what you were just saying about changing the number of seats and stuff, I believe you're right that it is, it's a full congressional situation that has to, come to agreement on that. But yeah, I mean, so I don't know what he's talking about is what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
It's gonna be. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, what he's talking about is the people who want to change the size of the court are also advocates for this woman.
Yep.
And so he is anti-packing as a conservative.
Oh, so he specifically talks. So when he says the term "packing the court," that he's referring to changing the number of seats.
Yes. So he's saying
see, I was just taking
the people who want to change the number of seats and pack the court are also simultaneously advocates for Ketanji Brown Jackson. And so he's saying if they are on that, which he considers to be extremist, by proxy, you know what I'm saying? Fucking, you know what I'm saying? She is.
That she's an extremist, activist judge.
That's the rest what he's drawing here. Yes.
Okay, I see.
Even though he voted for her twice in the federal district. Anyway, never mind. I hate him. We'll play a little more sound for his bitch ass. Okay.
Constitution trash all wanted you picked. And this is all I can say, is the fact that so many of these left-wing radical groups that would destroy the law as we know it declared war on Michelle Childs and supported you is problematic.
And Michelle Childs, I believe that's the woman that he wanted. Not
black judge from South Carolina. So yeah. But I think also Tim Scott, I think, was on that also, or maybe, no, it was Claiborne, the majority whip.
Okay.
And I think Claiborne has switched on it and said, "Hey, I'm good. I'm on the team. I'm with Ketanji. Being a South Carolina man, you know what I'm saying."
All right.
So I don't know if he's beat that drum for his state or if he's just being a contrarian because
Or he could just be a bitch ass nigga.
Because he's Lindsay. The nigga was born with the name Lindsay, so I mean, what it is.
Lindsay, right.
Sometimes it's as simple as
a girl's name.
Yeah. Sometimes it's as simple as you just being a bitch ass nigga, and we just gotta leave it at that.
Yeah.
All right, we enough sound from that nigga.
There's no more understanding past that.
Yeah. From a bitch ass nigga from the great state of Missouri, Josh Howley. Oh shit! Hold on, my bad.
18 years old. You also said.
Hold on.
You also said to this individual, who is an adult, tried as an adult, 18 years old. You also said to him, besides saying that you thought his victims were his peers, you also said there's no reason to think that you are a pedophile. And then you went on to say again, that's another.
Hey, did y'all see that black woman's face? Hold on.
Yeah, I missed it.
Hold on. That when she drank that water and put it down, nigga, the way she looked at
You thought his victims were his peers. You also said there's no reason to think that you are a pedophile. And then you went on to say, again, that's another reason why you weren't going to give him, you're only going to give him 3 months because you would have judged that he wasn't a pedophile. And then you said, and this is something I'd I really need your help understanding. Then you apologize to him. And I just have to tell you, I can't quite figure this out. You said to him, this is a truly difficult situation. I appreciate that your family's in the audience. I feel so sorry for them and for you and for the anguish this has caused all of you. I feel terrible about the collateral consequences of this conviction. And then you go on to say, sex offenders are truly shunned in our society. I'm just trying to figure out, Judge, is he the victim here or the victims the victims? You're saying that you're apologizing to him. You're saying you're sorry for the anguish this is that we have. You did this to your credit, and sex offenders are truly shunned in our...
The entire record.
Help me understand. I mean, is he a victim? Is that your view here? Is that why you said this? Is that what you meant by it?
Senator, I again don't have the entire record. I remember in that particular case, I considered it to be unusual, in part for the reasons that I described. I remember in that case that defense counsel was arguing for probation, in part because he argued that here we had a very young man, just graduated from high school. He presented all of his diplomas and...
Ain't there a nigga on the Supreme Court who had similar... I like beer.
No. That's not similar at all.
Well, he was a kid. He was a kid at that time.
He was the motherfucker who did it, and she just ruled on the case.
Yeah. I'm just saying. There's a motherfucker on the Supreme Court who actually, I'm like, Josh Hawley should understand. Him and I'm sure him and what's that motherfucker's name? Kavanaugh have had a few beers together. He loved beer, so
I like beer.
I like beer.
Yeah, I like beer.
Shit, there's another drop.
and certificates and the things that he had done, and argued, consistent with what I was seeing in the record, that this particular defendant had gotten into this in a way that was, I thought, inconsistent with some of the other cases that I had seen. Part of what a judge is doing, as required by Congress, is thinking about this case, thinking about unwarranted sentencing disparities, that's in the statute, other cases, other determinations that a judge may have made about this. I don't remember in...
Josh Hawley just took a note to figure out what the word statute means. Because as soon as she said it, he looked real confused and started writing.
He started writing. Like,
detail this particular case, but I do recall it being unusual. And so my only point to you is that judges are doing the work of assessing in each case a number of factors that are set forward by Congress, all against the backdrop of heinous criminal behavior. But the guidelines are no longer mandatory. Congress has not corrected, as you would say, the Supreme Court's determination about that. Just
I like how she keep hitting that Congress. You niggas in here who've been setting these laws and rules and precedents and everything else and agreeing upon and help shape how we rule. You niggas.
Right.
Yeah. You motherfucker.
Nah, he looked like an old mandatory minimum motherfucker over here, man.
Yeah,
exactly. Yes.
So I mean, I think judges should have discretion to look at cases, case by case, and determine, you know what I'm saying, this case might not, meet the same criteria as another one, and have discretion. She put the man in jail. She didn't put him in jail for as long as, some people would have liked. We felt the same way about old girl in Dallas that shot Botham Jean. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Exactly.
She got a hug and a Bible. And in 10 years,
I bet you
we weren't happy with that either. You know what I'm saying? So
exactly.
I think you got to take it both ways. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think you're not always going to be happy with a ruling or with a judgment. You know what I'm saying? Right. I like how she, laid out how she came to her ruling and her judgment. So, this motherfucker here.
And now the bitch. I mean, Mitch.
Bitch McConnell slammed by appalled former GOP counsel for planning to vote no on Judge Jackson. John Jackson appearing. Hold on, is he talking? Oh man, he's talking.
Appearing on CNN on Friday morning, the former.
Okay, what? Can y'all?
There's no way I could vote for. I could vote for Ketanji Brown Jackson.
You know, y'all know.
Nah, bro, you just say gobble 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 gobble.
You know,
that's all you gotta say. Whenever you want to say whatever Ms. McConnell's saying, just say gobble gobble.
Y'all
gobble,
know
gobble.
good. Y'all know good and goddamn well. He said Kunta Kinte Brown Jackson. He did not say. Appearing on CNN Friday morning, former GOP counsel for the House Government Reform and Oversight Committee hammered Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell for his decision to vote against placing Judge Judge Brown on the Supreme Court.
You about to say ketchup Brown Jackson?
I don't know something. Gobble, like Zeb said, gobble gobble. I'm just gonna say gobble gobble, nigga.
Ketanji.
McConnell, who refused to allow hearings on Merrick Garland's nomination to the court, added Judge Jackson was the court Packers pick. We talked about it before, though, right? We hate it. Yeah. We hate it. But when these motherfuckers get a talking point, my Lord, you gonna hear it, nigga.
Yeah.
You gonna hear it 100 times.
Yeah, they pound that.
Yeah, they gonna pound it to you.
They pound that nail.
What the fuck does he mean? He is the original quarterbacker. How the fuck is that? If he ain't voting for him, how should the quarterbackers pick?
Right. I don't know. That's what.
That sounds like the pot calling kettle black, man. Really.
Exactly.
That's exactly what it is.
I thought I had a different story, but anyway, yeah. What did he say? Nelson delivered extensive response. Sophia, Amy Coney Barrett, also well qualified killer again. The ABA had called for an FBI investigation into Brett Kavanaugh. I want to make this very clear about some of the distinctions in the reaction to some of these nominees. I wonder what you thought about Republicans, what they did during this hearing, and how they seemed to say, well, Brett Kavanaugh was treated very poorly. And that's something else I've been saying, been going around too, another talking point. Republicans saying that she would be treated better than other nominees. And I'm like, bruh, you got a motherfucker that can't. Yeah, you got Brett Kavanaugh, who got all these allegations. You got old Amy over here, who I hate to say it, not qualified.
She's not very underqualified.
Especially compared to Judge Brown Jackson. You know what I'm saying? I can't hear you, Joe. Joe, I can't hear you, bro.
Ketanji.
I just want to say Judge Joe Brown. Judge Brown.
Nah, that's misogynistic right there, sir.
How's that misogynistic? How's it? If I was in front of her, I would not say Ketanji. I would say Judge Jackson. Or the Honorable Judge Jackson.
It's the Honorable Judge Brown Jackson. KBJ.
Yeah, KBJ. There we go. I go with KBJ.
There we go.
I'm having her name, all names for me for the most part. But at the same time, I'm trying to give respect to the fact that I would not be calling her by her first name if I was standing in front of her.
Right.
I would be calling Your Honor.
Yeah, it was honorable. Yeah, I like it. KBJ. There we go. Everybody else, we got who's it? RBJ. Who's it? What's her name? Ruth.
RBG.
RBG. Yeah. So yeah, we go. KBJ. We first heard here on Brothers Breaking Bread. Anyway, McConnell's a bitch. All these motherfuckers are bitches, and they trying. Fuck moving the goalposts. They trying to move a football field into a basketball arena. Yeah, that's what they doing right now, bro.
Yeah.
They changing the stadium.
No, they changing the game. They changing the football field to a soccer field or a field or some shit.
Comparing this trial to Brett Kavanaugh's is ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
Yes, it is.
Like it's not the last one that was had. The last one was had by ACB.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Amy Coney Barrett, and hers went by like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And so she was treated, she was asked questions. She evaded every single fucking question she was ever asked. Like, they probably asked her name. She was like, well,
Damn,
I would tell you.
I'll tell you my name, but
technically, when I was born,
I think I was reading somewhere that she was like the first nominee to do that shit, man, to just refuse to answer certain questions.
Really? I don't know.
I was reading something earlier or yesterday or something. I can't remember what I was reading, but I don't know. I don't know the veracity of it. I don't know if that's true or not, but I don't know. I was just reading that.
But I mean, to compare this thing to Kavanaugh, you had the Gorsuch nomination. You had the ACB. Why are we comparing it to Kavanaugh? You know what I'm saying?
All right.
Kavanaugh was accused of something egregious.
Right.
But I get, because you can't really say, like as we pointed out, you can't really say ABC or whatever the fuck her name is. You can't really say that.
Nigga, hold on. You don't went from fucking up names to fucking up initials.
ABC.
He did say ABC.
This nigga went.
Easy as 1, 2, 3.
This nigga, goddamn. ACB, nigga, goddamn.
ABC.
Hey, cue that motherfucking Sesame Street music, nigga. Sunny days. ACB, you can't really, like, we put it out because she didn't say shit, and it's like they're trying to, like, without even discussing the reason why the Kavanaugh shit. And I don't even think it got to a dirty level. They just asking this motherfucker questions. Like, they asking about that financial shit. They asking about all these other these women coming out against this motherfucker. Questions that should have been asked. You know what I'm saying? And they try, but they trying to say, oh, that was dirty, without trying to put out, well, what were the questions asked? And now the media has been so fucking castrated. These niggas don't even ask these questions. You know what I'm saying? Especially on a lot of the 2 weeks ago when we did that show where it's kind of like these talking heads, and no one asked the question of, so yeah, but why did it get dirty? Didn't this nigga have these allegations? Didn't this nigga, they were trying to figure out how this nigga had like all this debt that just disappeared all of a sudden before he showed up here for this nomination? Right. So, yeah, I'm with you, Joe. It's just like, but it's just like, I don't know, man. The way we allow these motherfuckers to operate and shift and change the fucking, just the game, is so fucking frustrating. And they ain't even slick about it. They're not even slick about it, dog. It's just so heavy-handed. Anyway.
And I don't know, I wish we had a woman on the podcast today. I wish we had Kim and her cakes on today.
Yes, indeed.
I sent her a message. She didn't respond. She might be asleep. She might have overdosed on the couch.
Or Ada, you know what I'm saying, Lady Lavender. But you know what I'm saying, I think from what I've seen across the internet is black women looking at this and seeing how ridiculous it is to see these underqualified, entitled white men asking questions of this supremely qualified black woman who had to do twice as much as any of her peers to get half as far. You know, it's been frustrating for them to watch. It's been, I haven't had a chance to watch as much. I saw a couple of clips we have here in the chat group. But I mean, it's the old story, man. Yeah.
I heard Cory Booker, part of what he was saying, he says something about he was quoting somebody else, I don't remember who, but he was said, to get to where you've gotten as a black woman, you've had to walk backwards with heels on.
Yeah, it was Ginger Rogers. Ginger Rogers said, "I did everything that Fred Astaire did, except I did it backwards in heels."
Right. There it is. Right. Yeah. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, what y'all been saying is exactly on point, man.
It's crazy. Speaking of unqualified bitch ass white men.
So as we get into that, these very simply stated questions do not require overthinking. So I suppose another question here, though, is where does this come from? Well, KBJ, Ketanji Brown Jackson, is what your country looks like.
Why does it sound so racist when he say it?
Because he's a racist.
No.
I mean, the question is the answer, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, brother.
Oh, that was rhetorical. My bad.
No, thank you. Because, like, nigga, I can smell the fresh cotton on the white sheet that he probably got behind his fucking chair, nigga, when the way he said her name, bro.
Well, KBJ, Ketanji Brown Jackson, is what your country looks like on critical race theory. KBJ is your country on CRT. KBJ, Ketanji Brown Jackson, is an embodiment of the tyranny that we currently live under. He's an ideological, unintelligent, confident fanatic.
Tyranny.
What the fuck?
Nigga, there's been like, what, 200 Supreme Court justices over time, and like, what, 197 of them have been white men?
Right.
Talking about tyranny. What the fuck is he talking about?
Tyranny. These are audible white tears, Joe. That's what they are. These are audible white male tears, nigga.
This motherfucker was trying to get a guest spot on the Crackers Cracking Crackers, man. That was...
we would have broke character, dog. And we just would have cussed his ass. Smooth the fuck out. Like this black woman is, but here's the thing though, right? She's went to all, when you list all the institutions she's went to and had leadership positions in, you're talking about PWIs, dog, primary white institutions, dog. We ain't talking about, and it shouldn't matter, but how is that fucking tyranny? How is that CRT, nigga? She's going, Harvard, nigga. She's at Harvard.
Magna cum laude from Harvard.
Harvard, nigga. She ain't no Grambling graduate who's, and even, I hate saying that because that's, I feel racist.
Damn, you just said all the Grambling graduates.
No. Hold on. Let me explain. What I'm saying is they want to make, like the same way they did to fucking with Obama. They want to make her this black, and she may be, but her road to success has been through all these historically white institutions. So what in the fuck is he talking about?
To get to their success. Right.
Well, you notice he don't never, he just throw out the critical race theory. He throw out the CRT, but he don't never bother trying to explain it.
No.
Yeah, explain how she is the poster child for fucking CRT.
No, yeah, he did. He went on to say she's stupid.
Well, he said that definitely open. He's like, all these questions that don't require a lot of thought, without, and this is only a 5-minute clip from the show, so maybe he did play some of the questions, but that's the reason why I played her answering that fucking cracker from Missouri, Josh Hawley, because you can clearly see she took a question that was not, I don't think was an easy question, a complex question that required some thought for her to lay out why she judged the way she judged, and she explained it very clearly. So what in the fuck is he talking about?
A lot of recall. She had to do a lot of recall with that.
A nuanced expression, you know what I'm saying, of what her judgment was. And so this dude, for this motherfucker who was a shock jock, you know what I'm saying,
shock jock for who?
To call one of the greatest legal minds in the country unintelligent, that's clown shit. You know what I'm saying?
That's white people shit.
Like you know what I'm saying? Amy Coney Barrett, okay. Did she have no. Did she have the same background as Ketanji Brown Jackson? No.
Not even close.
But I'm not gonna call her stupid. No, I'm not gonna say she's not right.
Oh no.
I'm not gonna say she's not
stupid. She's just not.
Yo, chill out, relax.
Everyone.
I'm not gonna say this. I'm not gonna say that she's not qualified for the job. She has an unconventional route compared to other people in that she did not go to an Ivy League school, but she went to a prestigious university in Notre Dame.
Correct.
But to sit here and say this Harvard grad, twice Harvard grad, Harvard Law and Harvard undergrad with a magna cum laude is unintelligent, man. That's just, you just saying shit to say shit.
And we
at that point.
Yeah. And we talked about a couple episodes ago. The only time they shit on Ivy League schools and when it's a nigga who's graduated from an Ivy League school who's about to stand forth and have to represent this fucking nation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But did the same. We talked about it. Did the same thing with Barack Obama. They doing the same
Yes,
thing with
they
her.
did.
I'm sure there's countless names who aren't like Supreme Court justice presidents of the United States and shit like that. But the only time you see these schools get any other time it's a white dude or a white woman. Oh, nigga, they Ivy League graduated. Blah blah blah. When as soon as a nigga,
yeah, they hold that shit up on
left wing, left wing.
But what are SAT scores?
That too. Say LSAT. Hey, no. What is your Iowa basic? What's that shit we used to do back in high school?
ITBS.
I need to see it. I need to see it, nigga. Hey, hold on. What did you get on the presidential? What's that shit we did in gym class? The Presidential Achievement Award? Yeah. I need to know. I need to know. How many times? How far was you able to stretch and touch the end of that board, lady? I need to know.
There were a lot of people who went to Mizzou that scored way better than me on ACT. You know what I'm saying? And watched the fuck out, or didn't do nearly as well as I did in classes. You know what I'm saying? So if she got in the building for having an average SAT score, which I doubt, she probably rocked that shit too.
Yeah.
But she got in the building, or on the campus, and got magna cum laude, made it into law school, and rocked out there, and then got several apprenticeships, including with Supreme Court justices. Shut the fuck up!
Right. Shut the fuck up.
If you put ACB with this fucking resume in front of the court, they'd have had hard-ons all day talking about how qualified she is. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Oh yeah, no doubt for sure.
Nigga,
they couldn't find
Nigga, this is
nothing but praise.
I almost said it again. ACB. I almost said ABC again, nigga. ACB is, I get it. The Honorable Judge Brown Jackson would have to be Michael Jordan, and then ACB would be like John Paxson. Like, yeah, you made it to the league, nigga, but you ain't Jordan. You know what I'm saying? Your resume good. You went to college. You made it to the league, but nigga.
You ain't making it. You ain't being considered for the Hall.
I get it. I get it. These white. And what's crazy is we cover these shows. We cover these news clips and shit like that. Mm-hmm. And maybe the people in my job don't. I be watching them. But I know there are people who I know voted for Trump. There are people who I know, cause we talked about it and we had deep talks about it and why I didn't fuck with him and shit like that. And they're the same people who come to me and I hope she make it. I've read some of her rulings. She seems very reasonable. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I'm like, who are these people?
Right.
These motherfuckers who just like she don't deserve to serve. Anyway, man, fuck him. Fuck you, Charlie. Country looks on critical race theory, dog. These motherfuckers is. Oh yeah, did y'all see this shit? This little and this is from the GOP Twitter account.
Wow.
Blue check and all, dog. This ain't some fucking crazy ass person who just made this up. This is the GOP Twitter account who put up a GIF or GIF, however you want to do it, of the honorable judge here with the
Ketanji Brown Jackson
with the KBJ blacked out, and they scribbled in CRT. This is the fucking GOP official website. Twitter account, bro. The official GOP Twitter account. Putting this shit out.
How could you fucking be a black person and vote for the Republicans in 2022? That don't make no damn sense.
Right.
No,
this is fucking ridiculous.
And one of my favorite, and I offhand here, but because it's one of my favorite accounts to follow on Twitter is the Racism Watchdog, and all he does is go woof woof or woof woof woof, depending on how racist it is. This nigga got at least 20 woof 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 woofs in his on the reply. I love it.
All right.
Yeah.
The Racism Watchdog.
Oh, I love it. Ketanji, man. The Honorable Ketanji Brown Jackson don't deserve this, dog. The official GOP Twitter account.
Wow.
Anyway, yeah.
You know, to respond to what you asked, Joe, to what you said about how can you be a black person in 2022 and vote Republican. My grandfather is obviously a black person, and he's actually not my blood grandfather, but he's my grandfather though. But he's a Republican. He's been Republican for years, for as long as I've known him. And to this day, he still brings up the fucking fact that Abraham Lincoln was a Republican.
Well, he's not alone. They all do that shit. They all
do, right?
They all do.
You know what I'm saying?
I did it on the Colors Cracking Crackers. I did it too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But after watching them blatantly call this woman out as critical race theory, as if she's not eminently qualified, is fucking ridiculous.
Yep.
Yeah, utterly.
Like if you say, hey, I am fundamentally opposed to her philosophy and her judicial, you know what I'm saying, demeanor.
Right.
Ooh, I got you. But to say it's critical race theory, fuck out of here.
Yeah, it don't make no sense.
All right.
None.
Like I said, we're gonna watch some of this now with oh my bad, SAC. Nigga, we on? My bad. Damn, sorry. Tell him to call in. Now, somebody.
I'm put a nigga duh.
Oh shit. We're gonna you know what? We're gonna watch some of this bullshit down. With Ketanji Brown's friend, close friend, best friend. I don't know if she's the best friend, but a friend speaking on her behalf.
Chairman Durbin, Ranking Member Grassley, and members of the Senate Judiciary. My name is Lisa Fairfax. I am a presidential professor of law at the University of Pennsylvania School of Law and co-director of its Institute for Law and Economics. Prior to my academic career, I worked at corporate.
Oh, you know what? Never mind. This is the CRT that Charlie Kirk was talking about. These two black women who are in positions of leadership. My bad. I get. My bad, Charlie. My bad. We get it now. Fuck you, nigga.
And securities law at a large law firm. But before that, I was roommate and a very dear friend at Harvard College and Harvard Law School of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, who I am so very honored to introduce to you today and to the American people. Ketanji and I met during our first days of college nearly 35 years ago. Those first moments when you wonder if you belong. She's the friend that made sure we all did. A woman of deep faith in God and unyielding love for family, Ketanji defines friendship. She's the friend you're immediately drawn to for their outgoing and friendly nature. As our circle of friends grew, she's the one who became the rock for us all. Even though we are the same age, she is the role model who makes you believe in what she said. You can do it, and here's how. And she showed us how, by the power of her example of hard work, preparation, and excellence that transforms the seemingly impossible into the achievable. Together, we poured our souls into our studies, graduating college with honors, and then doing it all over again when we enrolled and graduated law school with honors. We became sisters and saw each other's families as our own. We both met our husbands when we were students, and we were there for each other as we walked down the aisles, started our legal careers, and eventually our lives as working mothers. My husband, Roger Fairfax, now Dean of American University's Washington College of Law, has described Ketanji's impeccable credentials that's distinguished her at every level of her professional career. He also...
When I say she got her own money, she got her own money. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's not missed on me that if this is two white women, two white men talking on behalf of each other, they just shut the fucking confirmation down right there and be like, bring the Bible out. Go ahead. We're gonna go ahead and swear her in right now.
No more to discuss here.
No more discuss here. Wait a minute, both of you law school graduate? Dean of what? Your husband? Your wife?
Your honors, dog. Don't forget that part.
Bring the Bibles. Bring the good Bible, please.
in my chat group with Ruben and Shazad, this picture, I don't know if you see it, of her daughter looking at him. Y'all see it, right?
That's her daughter? Yeah.
So Shazad puts that picture up in the group. It says, man, she's hot. I was like, nigga, she a child. What the fuck you doing?
So what?
And so he kept digging. And I was like, dude, put the shovel down. You know what I'm saying? Stop. And so
full stop.
Right, all that. And so then he asked Ruben to give him a fucking statement. So Ruben come out there with a formal statement. let me read this motherfucker. Hold on. That shit was silly as hell. So Ruben came out and says, we have a statement. Mr. Kwabani was under the influence of sleep aid at the time he made the unfortunate comment about Judge Brown Jackson's daughter. Mr. Kwabani has a strong record as a family man and firmly opposed the mistreatment and abuse of children worldwide. Mr. Kwabani will now undertake a period of deep reflection alongside his family in order to better understand his mistakes and learn. We will take no questions at this time, except from that youngest-looking female reporter in the third row.
Wow, this guy released a statement.
Boy, isn't that the lawyer answer right there? Oh, shit.
Had me giggling, bro.
Man, what the hell was going on, Joe? With what was y'all on, Discord or something?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, man! I looked at my fucking text thing. It had like 1 million goddamn messages on that bitch.
Yeah, you be tied to the party.
Man, I'm like, I ain't even gonna try to figure out what the hell was happening.
Well, basically, Shamari and I played the song that you did, that you were on.
Yeah, right.
To Jeremy, and Jeremy was like, it don't make sense for him to cuss. He should do it over. And I was like, he's not gonna do it over. It was something that was in the moment. If you like it.
Oh, you talking about my part?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was cussing in it. He's like, it was supposed to be positive. Why is it cussing? I'm like, well, shit. Cussing and positivity.
Yeah, are they mutually exclusive?
I don't think they are.
No. Not at all.
You know what I'm saying? So Jeremy is like, you can't be positive and cuss. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. You know what I'm saying?
No, it doesn't.
So
yeah, I don't even understand where you. Yeah, I don't know. Whatever.
He man, I don't know, man. He doing the same shit Shamari did 20 years ago, man.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's all good, whatever. But
it is what it is. I mean, I was like, but then Jeremy likes to snap too, and then it's like, so he took this shit to the chat group, and I'm like, what the fuck, bro? We had this conversation last night. Why are we still talking about it? You know what I'm saying? And he acting like I'm stupid, like I don't understand his point of view, and I'm like,
right. He ain't getting that you just don't agree.
I just don't agree. I don't agree with the shit. You know what I'm saying? He think I'm saying, like I was trying to explain to him that, you know what I'm saying, he over here talking about, if I'm talking about positive shit, you can't say it in church. You can't say it at the job. Nigga, this is hip hop. We ain't saying this shit at church. We ain't saying it at the job.
Right. And how Shamari feel?
Shamari was neutral. Shamari got them born again tendencies too. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, I know.
And so he was neutral, but he liked to poke. He liked to poke the bear.
Right.
And he was fucking. And so the biggest problem I had was Discord was fucking trash. Like, you know how we talk here, and we pretty much can get everything out, and you don't miss anything. Like, I don't know. I didn't have it on my computer. I was doing it web based, and you would talk and it wouldn't start. You couldn't hear nothing until like 2 seconds into whatever you say it. You know what I'm saying? So if you say something real quick, you miss that completely. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so I was just getting fucking frustrated with the fucking app.
Right.
And Jeremy you know what I'm saying? I don't know. I was just like, you either like what we did with Zev shit, or you don't like it. To ask him to do it again is fucking asinine. To arbitrarily cut out the cuss words is asinine. You know,
you were right. I wouldn't do it again. Number one, I'd just be like, well, don't use it. But I wouldn't do it because I couldn't do it again.
Exactly.
And it be what it is. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I'm saying it. So my thing was, I'm about authenticity. If he cuss saying something authentic, I'm cool with it because we're not playing it in church.
Right.
And ain't every song supposed to be on the radio. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I don't know. It just, I was frustrated with the app. I was frustrated with Jeremy. I was frustrated with, and Shamari started picking. And then they was fucking with me, and I was on the way to meet somebody and work on the project. And, they kept calling me out, like, I don't know, man. I just sometimes I'll be like, yo.
What they call, they call like freestyle or something?
Well, no, we freestyle on the app too, but they were, I'm talking about in the text thread.
Oh, okay,
Like, Joe, where you at? Da-da-da, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so Shamari said something, and Jeremy talking about he got God on his side. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? You just cussed in the thread 5 minutes ago. You know what I'm saying? What are we talking about?
Da-da-da-da-da. Oh, Jeremy crazy, man.
So it was okay to cuss if you're saying something negative, but if you said something positive, you couldn't cuss. That was the thesis, bro.
You got to put the cussing in the proper context.
Exactly. So if you say something positive, you say cussing it takes away from the positivity. I'm like, nigga, fuck that.
You only can cuss if you're negative.
That's what he was basically putting it as. If you on a song and you saying something positive, you can't cuss.
But if I say I'm happy as fuck, what's that add to the positivity?
Dude,
it means you're not happy.
That's as positive as a motherfucker right there.
Let me. So he was doing that shit. Let me see if I can find a fucking.
Girl, your pussy good as shit, nigga. That's two cuss words, nigga.
That's two positives right there. Yep.
Exactly. Hold on. Let me see if I can find shit. I put an example out there.
If I could rap, they definitely wouldn't have me on the track because I'm like, oh, that's what we doing. I'm about to. It's about to bars.
Sabotage that bitch.
Right. Here you go. So this is my example. My nigga, good to see how you doing well and shit. How the fuck you been? Glad as fuck to hear you. Glad as fuck
Jeremy.
Fuck to hear that shit. It does a nigga so right to see you shining like a motherfucker. Keep that shit up, my nigga.
I don't know. Yeah,
they fucking hair back, bro. I was like, come on, man. It is possible to cuss and be positive at the same time. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
They talking about you can't do this shit in the fucking boardroom, nigga. We not in a boardroom.
In the boardroom, right?
This is hip hop. Nigga,
right.
Shit.
Who's freestyling in the boardroom?
I don't know, man.
Who's rapping in the boardroom?
That's what I'd have been like.
I don't get it. And they talking about the radio. I'm like, nigga, we got fucking 10 other songs. Pick another one for the radio. You know what I'm saying?
There's a song about wet ass pussy.
Who the fuck listens to the radio anyways?
There's a song about wet ass pussy.
There's a song called Wet Ass Pussy.
You're right. That is a song
called Wet Ass Pussy.
Yeah.
Yes. And that is the most happiest song I could ever think about. It's some wet ass pussy.
Man, he like I said, he been on some born again shit, and so I don't know. I've cussed way less in songs I've written recently. Like damn near, you know what I'm saying? There's probably in the last year or two, probably a couple songs I cussed on that I wrote, but I done cut it back significantly because I know how they feel. You know what I'm saying? But
right.
And you should be able to do this without cussing too. I mean, I think sometimes cussing is a lack of creativity. You know what I'm saying?
It is. Yeah, it is.
But other times it is the only way to express an emotion. You know what I'm saying?
What did Lauryn Hill say? I add a motherfucker just to make niggas hear me.
So you make niggas hear me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. So yeah, all that shit was about you, but nobody tagged you and the shit. They tagged me. So But they didn't bring you out because they didn't say nothing to you. You know what I'm saying?
I probably would have never
So
seen
what did you do to piss them off?
For me?
Yeah.
I'm me. You know I am.
I'm about to say.
I get that. Because apparently they got pissed off about it.
This is me. We'll come on there. We just argue with each other and piss everybody off, nigga.
Yeah, y'all met me. Y'all did about 200 episodes with me.
But you
right?
You a lovable asshole. I mean, shit. At the end of the day, it's like, yeah, okay. I don't know. Motherfuckers be acting weird. All right, so
you know what? He pissing me off right now, man.
Right.
But you got, but make sure you add a curse word to it. That way, niggas know that you really pissed.
That way you don't seem seem happy about
this
it.
motherfucker pissing me off. All right. We good?
Break bread with your brothers whenever possible.